Updating our breaking news, Philadelphia police are marking off evidence after 7 people are shot during a sudden burst of violence overnight. One of the victims is dead. Eyewitness News reporter Jan Carabeo is live at the scene in the Spring Garden neighborhood of the city. So, Jan, what happened here?
Jim, good morning. Police tell us there were roughly 50 shots fired in this area of Spring Garden very early this morning. 7 people were shot. One of those people, a man in his 20s, is dead this morning. Another man, also in his 20s, is critically injured, shot in the neck. You can see here live on the scene behind me, still police are on the scene, still have this entire area taped off this morning. Police are actually investigating at 2 separate locations nearby. Now, this shooting started just before midnight on the 600 block of Perth Place in Spring Garden. At first, police believe they had 6 victims. Those victims showed up in private vehicles to Temple and Jefferson hospitals. We're told one of those victims is a 57-year-old man. The rest are in their 20s, including one woman. Again, out of those 6 victims, one is now in critical condition, a 22-year-old man who was shot in the neck. But as this investigation progressed this morning, a couple of hours later, around 2 a.m., a 7th victim was found lying in a courtyard nearby on the 600 block of 8th Street. He was shot in the face and pronounced dead a short time later. Police have a lot of work to do this morning and a lot of evidence to process. Take a listen.
So we know over 45 shots were fired from a semi-automatic weapon. We found multiple projectiles. We found 4 vehicles struck by gunfire. 1 vehicle still had its engine running, and numerous strike marks. The shell casings, the strike marks, the vehicles are all in the courtyard of the Spring Garden homes, more specifically 600 block of Perth Place. We also found a large amount of cash in the courtyard.
This investigation is only just beginning. Of course, homicide will pick up this case later on today. Police are looking for eyewitnesses. They're looking for surveillance cameras in the area. At this point, no information provided on a motive or on a suspect. And again, we are working to confirm the identity of that man in his 20s who was shot and killed. We are reporting live in Spring Garden this morning. Jan Carabeo, CBS 3 Eyewitness News. Back into you.
Thank you, Jan. 1 man is dead. 2 others are hurt after a triple shooting in Philadelphia's Fair Hill section. This happened just after 10 last night at 5th and Cambria Streets. Police found a 28-year-old man shot in the back. He died at the hospital. 2 24-year-old men showed up at 2 different hospitals. Both of them are in stable condition. A SEPTA bus was also struck during the shooting. No one on board the bus was hurt.
Developing tonight, a 14-year-old girl is fighting for her life. She was shot twice in the lower back on Dewey Street in Southwest Philadelphia. The gunfire was heard around 7:30. Paramedics rushed the girl to Penn Presbyterian Hospital. We're told she's in critical condition. Police are searching for the shooter right now. We continue to work to find out what led to the gunfire.
A young man is dead after he was gunned down in Philadelphia's Oxford Circle neighborhood. Now police are searching for his killer. The gunfire erupted just after 2 this morning on the 1300 block of Hellerman Street. Police found a 19-year-old man shot lying between 2 parked cars. He died at the hospital. Investigators are now working to determine a motive.
New tonight, a busy Sunday night for homicide detectives. They are investigating a double shooting in North Philadelphia. Someone shot a 21-year-old once in the chest at 23rd and Berks just before 7. He died at Temple University Hospital. A 23-year-old man was also shot in the arm. He is in stable condition. So far, there are no arrests or a known motive for the shooting. New tonight, a woman is hospitalized after she was shot during a carjacking in Olney. Philadelphia police say the 21-year-old was sitting in a red Mercedes on Ellis Street near Clarkson Avenue when she was pulled from the car by 2 men and 2 women. She was found with 2 gunshot wounds and then taken to Einstein Hospital, where she was placed in stable condition. Police say so far there have been no arrests. Their investigation is ongoing.
Hannah's also stable this morning after a shooting in West Philadelphia. Investigators say a 24-year-old was shot once in the shoulder around 11:30 last night on the 300 block of Sickles Way. That's near 55th and Haverford Avenue. So far, no suspects or motive for the shooting.
In Southwest Philadelphia, police are looking for the person who shot a 25-year-old man. It happened around 4:30 this morning here in the 6400 block of Woodlawn Avenue. The victim is said to be hospitalized in stable condition. 25-year-old man was shot and killed in the Mantua section of the city this afternoon. Chopper 3 over 39th and Brown around 1:30. Police say the victim was shot outside. There's no word on what led to the shooting. There have been no arrests.
This morning, 3 teenagers are hospitalized after they were shot outside of the Raymond Rosen Manor homes. That's in North Philadelphia. Police say someone began shooting at the young men just before midnight at 24th and Edgeley Streets. Investigators say the victims, ages 17, 18, and 19, were all shot in the legs. They're now in stable condition. Investigators are checking surveillance cameras to help them track down a suspect.
To West Philadelphia, where police continue to search for the person who shot and killed a man this afternoon. Shots were fired on South Ruby Street a little more than 2 hours ago. Medics pronounced a 42-year-old man dead there. Police have not released his identity.
And breaking overnight, gun violence continues to plague the city of Philadelphia.
Well, at least 6 people are hurt in a shooting in Hunting Park. Eyewitness News reporter Jan Carabeo is live at the scene with more details. Good morning, Jan.
Jim and Janelle, good morning. We are told this was an all-out gun battle here in Hunting Park that started just after 1 o'clock this morning. At the end of it all, more than 20 shots were fired and 6 people were injured. They're all in stable condition this morning. Live here on the scene, you can see Philadelphia police remain here. They have 2 specific blocks taped off as part of this investigation. Those are the 4100 block of Broad Street and the 1300 block of Colwyn Street. I want to go over exactly what we know happened at this point. Police say it was all caught on camera. The violence started just after 1 o'clock this morning on the corner of Broad and Colwyn Streets. Police tell us 6 people were standing there on the corner when a group of men in ski masks rolls up in a vehicle, jumps out and opens fire. One man in that group on the corner then fires back as everyone scatters and as he runs down Colwyn Street. Now in all, 6 people were injured, including 5 men and 1 woman. They all ended up at Temple and Einstein hospitals, all shot in the lower body. Again, they are all in stable condition this morning. As you can imagine, this was a chaotic scene. Take a listen to what happened as people ran for their lives.
One of the shooting victims ran into someone's home. They told him to leave and he exited the home. That male is also in the hospital at this time. So we're holding cars at Temple University Hospital. We're holding the 4100 block of Broad Street and the 1300 block of Colwyn.
Those cars he mentioned, people showed up in private vehicles, so those are part of the investigation as well. Now, the exact motive is still unclear this morning, but police believe this is gang related. Again, they have surveillance video of the entire incident showing that group of men in ski masks jumping out of that vehicle and opening fire. The man who fired back and who was injured is also in the hospital being held by police. We will bring you updates just as soon as we have them, but for now, we're live in Hunting Park. Jan Carabeo, CBS 3 Eyewitness News. Back into you.
Thank you, Jan.
All right, thanks, Jan. And some new video within this past hour. Thieves not only smashing the windows at Gary Barbera's car dealership, we now know that 4 vehicles were stolen. This is on the 7800 block of Roosevelt Boulevard, and you can see the showroom there completely ransacked. And in other headlines this noon, an investigation is underway after a body is found by Penn's Landing. Police pulling that body out of the Delaware River around 6:30 this morning. No word yet on what led up to that discovery.
So breaking overnight, a little boy kidnapped during a car theft is found safe and sound. The terrifying ordeal happened around 12:30 this morning near 59th and Florence Avenue. That's in southwest Philadelphia. Police say the boy's mother left the car unattended with the child in the back seat when someone stole it.
I stopped and asked her what was wrong, and she said that somebody had drove off with her baby, and she was asking how could I help, and I told her to jump in the car. I'll look. I rode up that way and circled the block. I didn't see the car, so I flagged down the officer and let him know that her baby was taken.
Police found the car and the little boy about 3 blocks away. The child was taken to the hospital to make sure he's okay.
Short time ago, the mayor, several city council members, and police commissioner Danielle Outlaw all toured the 52nd Street business corridor in West Philadelphia. That's one of the areas hardest hit by yesterday's protests and looting.
We're only one part of this, and we can only do so much. This is our city. This is our community. I've been here for a short amount of time, but this is my home. This is where I'm going to be. This is where I landed. This is where we shop. And at this point, we need each other. The same way those other folks stepped in front of that Target to protect their property, We need to do the same thing for our stuff.
And while we were there, we saw members of the community working together to clean up the mess left behind by the protesters.
Police say ran over Officer Antonio Nieves has turned herself in. That tonight from the Philadelphia Police Department. It happened as Nieves was trying to stop a group of looters near 7th and Chestnut Streets in Center City on May 30th. According to his fiancée, he suffered a broken scapula, had 12 broken ribs, and also several cracked vertebrae. No word yet on the charges the accused driver is facing.
And breaking right now, the owner of a gun range shoots and kills someone trying to break into their business. Eyewitness News reporter Trang Do just arrived on the scene there on South Front Street. Trang, what details do you have for us so far?
Well, Janelle, we are working to gather information. As you mentioned, just got here moments ago. But let me just show you the scene here. This is the 1500 block of South Front Street in South Philadelphia. This is actually the parking lot of Firing Line Inc., which is a firing range here. And if we move in, you can see the cluster of officers there investigating what happened here just about an hour ago. Philly police tell us at about 4:15, police were dispatched to this firing range for a report that the store owner shot someone who was trying to break in. Now, that individual was pronounced at 4:20 a.m. and we are told the store owner is okay. However, as you can see, the investigation continues here into what exactly happened. Again, you can see that cluster of officers right there in front of the door, and they tell us that they are going to give us an update on the situation in just a few more minutes. However, once again, we are hearing again that a store owner reportedly shot someone who was trying to break into this firing range here in South Philadelphia. For now, we're live in South Philadelphia. I'm Trang Do, CBS 3 Eyewitness News. I'll send it back to you, Janelle.
All right, keep us posted, Trang. Thank you.
Live right north of City Hall. Matt, bring us up to speed.
Well, Joe, we just wrapped around the north side of City Hall. Take a look behind me. You can see over to the left here, this is a car that was flipped over. We're told it was a police cruiser that's now burning. Firefighters just arrived to the scene a short time ago. I'm not sure if you just heard that big bang. We've been hearing them periodically for the past couple of hours. Well, if you're able to walk with me to get a better view of these other two cars that are burning as fire crews are working kind of two different fronts. I mean, they're working through this pandemic, but they're also trying to work and do their jobs and put these this fire out of these two cars. Now, this one vehicle, you can clearly see that's on the left side. That's mostly white. That was a police cruiser. You can see the lights on top. The other vehicle looks like a city vehicle that was set on fire. A wild scene right outside of Philadelphia City Hall, not too far from Love Park. A lot of protesters are here kind of just storming around the area. If you can flip around, this is all the people coming out here to watch what's unfolding, and there's still a line, a barrier of officers outside the Municipal Services Building. They've been here for several hours as protesters were trying to storm inside. If you want to take a closer look as well at the Frank Rizzo statue, take a look at how protesters have defaced him. There's what looks like red paint all over, sprayed over the face of him. Some white paint as well. The bottom of the statue, you can see some what looks like ashes. Like we told you a little bit ago, that's because protesters were trying to burn the statue. But like we told you a short time ago, it is made of steel. So that did not really work. And if we pan just one more time, stop killing my family. This is just some of the graffiti sprayed all around this area today after very tense situation between officers and protesters as fire crews, in the meantime, try to put out these flames. Joe?
About 100 yards from where you're standing, there were reports of people breaking windows, pushing air conditioning units in to City Hall. Have you seen anything like that from your vantage?
Sorry, Joe, could you repeat
Matt,
that?
the question was, have you seen anything from your vantage point of people pushing windows in, breaking windows at City Hall?
At City Hall, I did not see that myself. A short time ago, people were throwing things at the Municipal Services Building, trying to break those windows so they could get inside. We could try to take a walk around and get a closer look of what's going on at City Hall. We did hear a lot of explosions just a short while ago coming from a distance, so it is possible that's what's been happening. And if you take a look from above, Chopper 3 is above right now. I want you to take a look at the subway system on those glass panes. You can see just a huge crowd of people surrounding Philadelphia City Hall, people standing on those glass panes. That does not look like a good idea. A lot of people holding signs saying Black Lives Matter, stop stepping on our throats. Very tense scene, but Joe, we can take a walk around City Hall, try to find those windows, and get back to you in a short time. But this is a very fluid scene. I mean, these protesters have been storming all around the area for hours now, from the Municipal Services Building to Love Park, and I guess the latest victim in all this is Philadelphia City Hall. Joe?
Yeah, Matt, some perspective from the air. We could actually see people in Dilworth Park, which is the area just a little bit to the south of you, launching things at City Hall, visibly throwing things at City Hall. So, Matt, we will check back in with you. Please stay safe out there.
Health officials say that Philadelphia is turning the corner. However, the city is still struggling in the fight to keep residents safe. Natasha Brown explains.
Philadelphia health officials are touting good news and a downward spiral in the fight against COVID-19.
We have 0 new confirmed deaths from this time yesterday, bringing us to a total of 893 deaths since the beginning of the epidemic. Now, that 0 is a good number, but also just remember that if we get fewer test results, then we have fewer people who are confirmed as having died from the coronavirus infection. So we would expect to have more deaths reported to us in the coming days.
The city reports 102 new positive cases with a total of more than 18,300. Still a far cry from a plan to reopen Philadelphia.
We're still seeing hundreds of cases per day. The epidemic is still here. There's plenty of cases in the city. So we're not safe yet.
While health officials and city leaders continue to battle the coronavirus outbreak, another battle is taking place on the streets of Philadelphia as shootings rise. 5 people were shot and 1 stabbed during a violent Mother's Day weekend.
I wish people would put aside their beefs, put aside their anger towards each other, keep our intensive care beds open, and do something right for your family and friends and your neighborhood by just putting the guns down and stopping.
Gun violence is continuing to plague Philadelphia even as the coronavirus continues to jeopardize lives. Nearly 495 people have been shot in the city so far this year. City officials trying to balance a pandemic along with an epidemic of gun violence, both claiming lives.
In the meantime, we'll continue to arrest people that are violating or carrying a gun. Obviously, anybody shoots anyone or kills somebody, we're going to arrest them. I'm sometimes at my wit's end with this because it seems like the time when people would kind of put their beefs aside.
Natasha Brown, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
In other news this morning, a Philadelphia store clerk is fighting for his life after he was shot at work.
Yeah, police believe the employee was targeted by a disgruntled customer. Eyewitness News reporter Trang Do is live this morning at police headquarters with more details. Trang.
Well, Janelle and Jim, police have not yet arrested anyone, but thanks to several witnesses who were inside the store, as well as some very clear surveillance video, detectives believe they know exactly who they are looking for. Here's video of the scene overnight in Kensington. Now, just before 10 p.m., police responded to a call of a shooting inside the Vargas Mini Market on the 200 block of East Cambria Street. When officers arrived, they found the 54-year-old cashier lying behind the counter with a gunshot wound to the head. Officers rushed him to Temple Hospital, where he was in extremely critical condition. Now, there were several witnesses inside the store who told police that this was no accident and that the suspect got into some kind of argument with the victim. And then about a half an hour later, he came back to the store and shot the clerk.
The shooter entered through the front door, went behind the counter, where just the employees are allowed, and from point blank range fired 1 or 2 shots, striking this 54-year-old victim in the forehead.
Now, police tell us that victim underwent surgery overnight and remains in critical condition. But for now, we're live outside Philadelphia Police Headquarters. I'm Trang Do, CBS 3 Eyewitness News. Jim, I'll send it over to you.
Thank you so much, Frank.
Philadelphia police are also looking for a suspect who robbed a Rite Aid. Happened Monday around 4:15 in the afternoon at the Rite Aid on the 100 block of West Chelton Avenue. According to police, a man tried to leave the store with merchandise without paying. When confronted, the suspect pulled out a knife and threatened the employee. He then fled with about $100 worth of goods. Police say the suspect was wearing a white-black vertical striped surgical mask.
Also breaking overnight, looters break into a Rite Aid on Olney Avenue. This is near LaSalle University's campus, and they started a fire inside there. The fire department quickly got those flames under control around 1 a.m., but it wasn't long before looters returned to the scene there. We're told they began stealing again as soon as firefighters were gone.
Developing right now, prosecutors charge a man in connection with the shooting death of a little boy in Germantown. Police have arrested Saeed Booker. Investigators say Booker left the gun used in the shooting unsecured inside a home on North 20th Street. 9-year-old Rajiv Ingram was shot and killed Tuesday night. Booker is charged with involuntary manslaughter and lying to investigators.
New tonight, a 19-year-old man is in critical condition after a shooting in Kensington. It happened just before 7 tonight in the 900 block of East Schiller Street. The victim was shot in the stomach and the buttocks. He was transported to Temple University Hospital. Philadelphia police, in the meantime, are investigating. They tell us there are no arrests just yet.
Police are looking for a gunman this morning after a shooting in southwest Philadelphia. A man was found shot in the chest at 58th and Trinity Streets around 10:30 last night. He is now in critical condition. So far, police have not made any arrests.
A wristwatch is among the evidence circled and tagged after a shooting in North Philadelphia. Police say a 38-year-old man was shot in the bicep in the 2400 block of Gratz Street. This happened around 5:30 this evening. The victim is now at Temple University Hospital. The gunman is still on the loose. Detectives do not have a motive for the shooting.
New this morning, a shooting in North Philadelphia leaves a man critically injured. All of this happening after midnight outside of a mini mart on the 4200 block of North Broad Street. Police say they learned of the shooting after the victim showed up at a hospital. Investigators say it appears the 20-year-old was shot during an argument with another man. The other gunman still remains at large.
28-year-old man is in critical condition after a shooting on the 2900 block of North Bonsall Street in North Philadelphia. Investigators say at least 20 shots were fired and at least 2 parked cars were hit by the gunfire. Police recovered a handgun at the scene, but so far they have no suspects or a motive in the shooting.
Gun violence continues to plague Philadelphia. A man is shot while sitting outside in East Germantown. This happening just after midnight on the 200 block of East Ashmead Street. Police say the victim was sitting in a chair on the sidewalk when a gunman opened fire there. The victim was struck multiple times in both legs. He's stable. Investigators are now working to determine a motive, and police are still looking for the shooter. And while police were investigating the shooting on Indiana Street, they heard a burst of gunfire just 2 blocks away. They responded and found a man shot in the leg on the 2800 block of North Front Street. He's listed in stable condition. Police now looking to see if the 2 shootings are connected.
A shooting in Philadelphia leaves a man critically injured. It happened just after 1 this morning at 40th and Powelton Avenue. Police say the 30-year-old victim was shot multiple times. Investigators say they are looking for 2 men who were seen running away from the scene.
Philadelphia police are investigating a pair of deadly shootings this morning. This first one happening around 11:30 last night on the 2800 block of North Bonsall Street in North Philadelphia. Police say a 51-year-old man was shot multiple times. He was rushed to the hospital where he later died. No word yet on a motive, and the gunman remains at large.
We're also following a developing story this morning, a deadly shooting in the Parkwood section of the Northeast. 61-year-old man was shot twice in the arm and once in the chest and later died at the hospital. The shooting happened shortly before 10:30 last night on the 3100 block of Byberry Road. So far, police have no suspects and no motive in this shooting.
The police also investigating another deadly shooting, this one happening around 3:30 this morning on the 100 block of East Indiana Avenue in Kensington. Police say the victim was shot in the head while sitting in a parked car. No word on a motive, and so far, no arrests. Overnight, a man is shot and killed in Philadelphia's Frankfort section. It happened around 2:15 this morning. Police say the victim was shot multiple times on the 5000 block of Leeper Street, then ran and collapsed outside of the 7-Eleven on the 5000 block of Frankfort Avenue. He was pronounced dead a short time later.
The victim was able to run 3 blocks east along Dyer Street, where he collapsed in the 5000 block of Frankfurt Avenue in a 7-Eleven parking lot. That's where police found him. However, we did find the crime scene in the 5000 block of Leeper Street, which consists of 12 spent shell casings.
Investigators are right now working to determine a motive. So far, no arrests. Second shooting happening in Kensington. Officers found a man shot once in the chest on the 600 block of Lippincott Street overnight. Police say the victim was unresponsive. He was taken to the hospital but did not survive his injuries. Police are now gathering surveillance footage, hoping that will help them in their investigation.
Police are checking surveillance video after 2 cousins were shot earlier this morning in Logan. An 18-year-old man and a 14-year-old girl told investigators they were near Belfield and Windham Avenues when they heard what they thought were fireworks. Police found a trail of blood on the 1800 block of West Rockland Street after both victims ran to a relative's home. The man was shot in the foot. The girl was grazed in her left hand.
Street violence continues on in Philadelphia despite the pandemic. Among other news, we're following a double shooting in Kensington. Police say a man and a woman were shot in the 3100 block of G Street around 4:30 this morning. The woman is fighting for her life this evening, according to police. The male victim is in stable condition. So far, no arrests have been made.
Breaking news, members of the National Guard are now on patrol in Philadelphia in the wake of the weekend mayhem. Good afternoon. I'm Janelle Burrell. Welcome to CBS 3 at noon, now also streaming live on CBSN Philly. Members of the National Guard are in Philadelphia, and the goal is for them to help protect key city landmarks, including City Hall. Now, city officials made the request to get the support from the National Guard after demonstrations turned violent over the weekend. Eyewitness News reporter Matt Petrillo is live in Center City this afternoon with more on the soldiers' arrival. Matt.
Well, Philadelphia city officials made the decision to bring in the National Guard after protest over the weekend turned violent. If you take a closer look, you can see they're stationed here on the northeast side of City Hall, soldiers essentially guarding against its own citizens. Now, if we take a pan towards the center of City Hall, you can see part of the building there is fenced off. Those officers in the blue shirts, those are with the Philadelphia Police Department, and there are more National Guardsmen over on the northwest corner as well. Philadelphia's managing director talked about the need for the National Guard at a Sunday evening news conference.
The National Guard's mission is really going to be support law enforcement. They are not law enforcement officers. They will be supporting our law enforcement officers. And in most cases, will be about protecting our assets, protecting sensitive areas, and allowing those officers who are currently doing that to redeploy into our communities and our neighborhoods to provide law enforcement support. So again, National Guard will allow is a force enhancer, a force multiplier, because they'll be taking the role that we've had to have police officers play right now.
Meantime, we also want to show you what Center City's premier shopping district looks like right now. Almost every business on Walnut Street between 15th and 18th is boarded up, kind of like a big storm is about to roll through. Over on Chestnut Street, a similar picture, except we found this. DeBruno Brothers is not only open, in this time of crisis, it's giving back. It's offering off-duty police officers free lunch and drink.
I think that's a wonderful idea because these people out here are serving us and working hard to protect us. And God bless everyone that comes to work with a good soul and does their job.
Back out here at City Hall, one more live look at the National Guard in place after arriving overnight. Philadelphia city leaders have not yet said how long they could be here for. Reporting live in Center City, Matt Petrillo, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Our large presence there this afternoon, Matt. All right, thank you. Meanwhile, members of the National Guard did arrive in Philadelphia here early this morning. The soldiers will help protect key city landmarks, including City Hall. City officials made the request to get support from the National Guard after demonstrations turned violent over the weekend.
Well, breaking right now at noon, the National Guard is leaving Philadelphia. After more than a week on the ground assisting police in Center City, the Guardsmen are moving on. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jim Donovan. Welcome to CBS 3 Eyewitness News at noon, now streaming live on CBS and Philly. The Guard had been brought in to restore order after some protests got out of control, resulting in vandalism and looting. Our Matt Petrillo reports.
Hi, good afternoon to you. The National Guard was stationed outside of Philadelphia City Hall since June 1st, but take a look, they are no longer here. Instead, just a couple of Philadelphia police cars. Meantime, over at 2nd and Spring Garden Streets, Chopper 3 found crews breaking down a command center this morning. The National Guard was initially deployed to Philadelphia and other cities across the country after widespread looting that happened during the last week of May. Now, the Guard's duty was essentially to protect several buildings in Philly so Philadelphia police could better patrol neighborhoods. But the Guard did more than that. Eyewitness News was rolling as 2 guardsmen helped an elderly man across the street by Philadelphia City Hall yesterday. So while the National Guard is no longer stationed here at Philadelphia City Hall, it is staying nearby in case it needs to be deployed again. In Center City, Matt Petrillo, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
National Guard once again has been called in to help safeguard key sites in Philadelphia and help things from getting out of control. And Matt Petrillo joins us now with that part of our coverage.
The National Guard arrived in Philadelphia Monday morning. Black Lives Matter! And it didn't take long for protesters to confront them just outside of City Hall. Dozens of demonstrators held signs and cursed at the soldiers, but the Guard showed restraint.
What you're seeing across the country right now is unlike any of us have seen.
While Monday has seen chaos, so far it does not compare to the looting, vandalism, and arson that happened across much of the city over the weekend. Now Philadelphia police are working to figure out exactly who coordinated all the violence.
They have counter tactics, they have gone dark, and they're very smart in how they do this. This is very coordinated. So a lot of the strategies and practices of the past don't necessarily work, and we have to be even more strategic in how we do that.
Today we found City Hall fenced off and surrounded by police. Officials say Dilworth Park is expected to be closed until June 15th, the earliest.
We've already cleaned up all of Dilworth at this point. We've boarded up all the windows. We're assessing the damage.
Some of the damage includes a fire that engulfed the Starbucks on the skirt of City Hall over the weekend. Today you can see much of the building remains charred, but Eyewitness News has learned that Starbucks will reopen, and stores in the shopping district, which were set to open Friday, are now expected to open in mid-June.
What happened here was completely gratuitous, unnecessary.
And by the numbers Philadelphia police tell us, the city saw over the weekend 150 acts of vandalism and nearly 250 commercial burglaries. More than 400 arrests were also made. I'm Matt Petrillo, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
To other news tonight, police are searching for the gunman in a double shooting. That gunfire erupted at 19th and Wingo-Hockey in Nicetown a short time ago. Police say a 31-year-old man was shot in the arm and leg. He's at Temple Hospital. A 32-year-old man was shot in the arm. He's at Einstein. We are working to learn what led to the shooting.
Well, also breaking overnight, an outbreak of gun violence in Philadelphia leaves at least 2 people dead and several others injured. Let's get the details now from Eyewitness News reporter Trang Do. She's live at police headquarters. Good morning, Trang.
Hey, good morning, Jim. There was no part of the city last night that was spared from this gun violence. In all, 11 people were shot. The most recent shooting had the youngest victim. It happened just after 1 a.m. on the 2600 block of Germantown Avenue in North Philadelphia. A 14-year-old boy was shot once in the chest. He is expected to survive.
The victim, after being shot, ran about a half a block to another business, and that's where police found him.
The wave of shootings began just after 10:45 last night with a quadruple shooting on the 300 block of North 55th Street in West Philadelphia. Police say 2 men opened fire on a group of people sitting on a porch. The 4 victims range in age from 22 to 30. A 27-year-old man died in that shooting.
One of the things that we definitely are doing is trying to be surgical. We don't want to hurt the community, but we also need to identify these males who are doing the shooting out here.
That was followed by a homicide at 11:15 on the 5200 block of Wayne Avenue in Germantown. Police found a 37-year-old man in the driver's seat of a car with a gunshot wound to the neck. Shell casings at the scene indicate the gunman fired off at least 13 shots. Chief Inspector Scott Small says the man had just left a friend's apartment nearby.
It appears that right after he was shot, he lost control and crashed into a parked unattended vehicle.
3 people are recovering after a triple shooting around midnight on the 1300 block of South Ringgold Street in Point Breeze. A 52-year-old woman was inside her home when a bullet grazed her thigh. 2 young men, ages 22 and 18, were shot in the legs. Now, 2 other men were also shot in separate shootings last night. So far, no one has been arrested. But for now, we're live outside of Philadelphia Police Headquarters. I'm Trang Do, CBS 3 Eyewitness News. Janelle, I'll send it over to you.
All right, Trang, thanks so much. Well,
Philadelphia has a massive cleanup job this morning. Peaceful demonstrations over the death of George Floyd ended yesterday in the city with police officers hurt, cars set on fire, and businesses vandalized. Now, the curfew for this city is over for the time being. Eyewitness News reporter Dan Koob is live in Center City, where much of the destruction is visible. Dan, good morning.
Good morning, Jan. There is a lot of visible destruction, and there are a lot of visibly distraught people who live in this city who are now coming out after 7 o'clock to assess it for themselves. But I want to show you behind me the Urban Outfitters who were here about an hour and a half ago. You can see just how much damage has been done to this building. People are coming out, taking pictures of the damage to see for themselves. You can see coat hangers all over the ground, clothing all over the ground, charred remains of mannequins all over the ground here on the corner of 17th and Walnut. As I mentioned, people now coming out to take pictures for themselves, to see it for themselves. We're going to go to a soundbite from our mayor, Jim Kenney, from last night.
Acts of violence and destruction are never justified. We will get through this. We will continue to hold bad cops accountable, and we'll hold those who committed these acts today accountable also.
Now we're crossing the street, we're crossing 17th and Sansom to give you a look at some of the other things that are going on down here, Jan. You see Lucky Brands Company, half of this window has been completely broken out. There are mannequins thrown everywhere, and you can see this place has been looted. We have seen looters throughout the morning, not only here on Sansom Street, or on Walnut Street rather, but on Sansom Street we've had reports of looting going on at 15th and Chestnut, all over the city this morning. I mentioned the juxtaposition in the last half hour of people going for jogs, walks with their dogs, with their spouses, significant others, while people just down the street are looting. That has subsided where we have been a little bit, as more people are now coming out to take pictures and assess for themselves. But it's still a bad scene down here, Jan. If you can avoid the area, I would do so. We'll go back to you.
Yeah, just an incredible sight. Okay, Dan, we'll see you again at 8 o'clock. Thank you.
Breaking tonight, Philadelphia police say at least 4 people were shot in the Fair Hill section of the city. Chopper 3 over the 2700 block of North Darien Street. Few details are being released right now, but police say the victims showed up at Temple University Hospital. We will continue to monitor this breaking story as well.
Philadelphia police need help finding 6 men who attacked an employee at an East Germantown supermarket. The suspects arrived in 2 groups and waited outside the Fresh Grocer on Chew Avenue Wednesday night. When the employee came out, police say the 6 suspects jumped the 30-year-old, punching and kicking him. The men took off in a Ford F-150 or F-250 white truck and a newer white Toyota RAV4. The victim was treated at a local hospital. Anyone with any information is asked to call police. Katie Johnston for CBS Philly.
Police bust a wild Memorial Day party in Philadelphia's Brewerytown neighborhood last night.
Officers say at one point the crowd was so big it was blocking an intersection. We get more now from Eyewitness News reporter Trang Do.
It was the complete opposite of social distancing. This Instagram video captured part of a Memorial Day party, complete with a DJ and 2 security guards, that attracted some 250 young people to the intersection of 28th and Cecil B. Moore in Brewerytown.
Turned out the crowd was there listening to a DJ, playing some music, and because of social media, the crowds grew really large and very rapidly.
Another video posted to Twitter shows a line of officers attempting to break up the crowd after several people called 911 just before 9 p.m.
Traffic could not get by. Even pedestrian traffic walking on the sidewalks couldn't get by.
Officers, supervisors, and commanders from across the city responded to help disperse the crowd, a task that took about an hour. Police arrested 1 man for disorderly conduct after they say he refused to leave and put his hands on an officer. Officers arrested a second man after they found an illegal gun in his car. Police made the discovery after the man left the gathering and got into a minor car accident.
Supervisors and commanders did a really good job of slowly dispersing this large crowd, which resulted in only 2 arrests, no injuries to police, no injuries to any civilians, and as far as we know, no property damage.
Now, police were trying to disperse this crowd as quickly and safely as possible, so we are told that no one was cited for violating the city's stay-at-home order. But for now, we're live from Philadelphia Police Headquarters. I'm Trang Do, CBS 3 Eyewitness News. Jim, I'll send it over to you.
Thank you, Trang.
Philadelphia police are searching for a gunman after a 21-year-old man is shot in the Cedarbrook section. This happened around 11:30 last night on the 8000 block of Temple Road. Police say the victim was driving when someone opened fire, striking him twice in the back. He's in stable condition. 2 other men were inside of the car, but they were not hurt. Investigators are working to determine a motive for that shooting.
New this morning, police are investigating an overnight shooting in Philadelphia's Logan section. The gunfire rang out around 11:30 last night at Ogons and West Olney Avenues. The shooter may have opened fire on the victim as they sat inside of a vehicle there. The victim was rushed to the hospital. So far, no arrests. New this morning, a shooting has turned a northeast Philadelphia street corner into a crime scene. A man was found shot at Tolbert and Dittman Streets in Holmesburg around 2 o'clock this morning. The victim has been rushed to Jefferson Torresdale Hospital, and police are still looking for the gunman and the motive.
Philadelphia police, as we mentioned, they are investigating a series of ATM explosions overnight. In this video from 7th and Girard, you can see at least 3 people there set the explosive, run away, and then go back to that ATM. In all, police say vandals tried to blow up at least 10 ATMs overnight, and a botched attempt left 1 person dead. Eyewitness News reporter Matt Petrillo is in Center City this afternoon. And Matt, the National Guard there, we see they are behind you. Have those soldiers been able to help police deal with this recent surge in crime?
Well, Philadelphia police tell us even with all this extra backup that those vandals are moving so quickly from crime scene to crime scene that catching up with them can be difficult. Now take a look at the strength of the National Guard behind me here right outside of Philadelphia City Hall. These are soldiers protecting people against their own citizens. You can see some Humvees in the background as well. Well, last night the city saw another wave of chaos, crime scenes now scattered across Philadelphia. Chopper 3 was over West Susquehanna Avenue and North 2nd Street in Kensington around 6 o'clock Tuesday morning, just after the bomb squad was called in after an ATM explosion rocked this neighborhood. Police say a man tried using an explosive device to blow up this ATM by Sidekick Sports Bar, but when the device went off, someone was thrown to the ground with serious injuries. That person was rushed to a nearby hospital and died. Police say the explosive device never penetrated the ATM safe. Meantime, there have been several other ATM explosions across Philadelphia overnight. Over by 7th and Girard in Fishtown, an eyewitness captured these 3 people running around a corner before we see dust and debris fly into the air. The 3 then run into the smoke and the video ends. Eyewitness News was also at Amber Street and East Allegheny Avenue in Kensington, where an ATM was blown apart. The main component pried open.
Hold this dummy over here.
And 2 ATM machines looked like they were blown up at 61st and Woodland in Southwest Philly. A butcher from the shop tells us at some point the shop was looted overnight, the safe and cash register stolen, but the owner of the store was taken into custody.
Everything was going on. They were out here like it was mobs of people out here. And they got in pretty much every store, the Dunkin' Donuts, the jewelry store, the Metro. It was a complete madhouse out here. I was in shock, and I'm going on 53, so I haven't seen a lot. Nothing like that.
And the hashtag Philly Explosions is now trending on Twitter. And Janelle, former Vice President Joe Biden left Philadelphia City Hall a short time ago after making an address here.
Matt, another busy night for Philadelphia police. Thanks so much.
This morning, a double shooting in the Parkside section of Philadelphia. The gunfire broke out at around 11:30 near 42nd and West Stiles Street. A 22-year-old man was shot several times and rushed to the hospital in an extremely critical condition. A 23-year-old woman was shot in the thigh and is now in stable condition. So far, police have no suspects or a motive in this shooting.
And more breaking news. Chopper 3 over the scene here at 7th and Chestnut Streets, where a Philadelphia police officer is being loaded into an ambulance. Reports are that this officer was run over at this location, again at 7th and Chestnut. Preliminarily, we are told it looks like he is going to be okay. We will follow this and other breaking news across the city of Philadelphia.
We are following breaking news out of Olney of an officer-involved shooting. Chopper 3 was over the scene near 6th and Somerville. According to police, when an officer showed up to the property, a 22-year-old man went after her with a box cutter. When she turned around to get away, police say that he grabbed her from behind and had his hands around her throat. That's when she fired her gun. The man was shot in the leg. He was taken to Einstein Medical Center. We are continuing to follow this breaking story, and we'll have updates on CBSPhilly.com and on Eyewitness News at 11. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jessica Cartalia. We'll get to that story in just a moment. But first, a man is hospitalized tonight, shot by a police officer after he charged at her with a box cutter. Chopper 3 over the scene in Olney near the area of 6th Street and Somerville Avenue. Kimberly Davis is live at police headquarters with what we know about the officer and the man she shot. Kimberly.
Jess, we know that officer under investigation this evening has been with the Philadelphia Police Department for the last 3 years. We're told she did sustain some scrapes and bruises during that confrontation, and we're told the officer-involved shooting unit and internal affairs are both involved in this investigation. The call came out just before 4 Tuesday afternoon. Philadelphia police say they were responding to a person with a weapon.
The officer arrived. Philadelphia Fire Department medics were already on location.
Police tell us the 25-year-old officer arrived to the 5400 block of North 6th Street. And when she walked onto the property, a man began to charge at the officer with what police believe was a box cutter in his hand. We're told the man got behind the officer and placed his arm around her throat. Police say both the officer and suspect fell to the ground, but she was able to grab her gun and shoot the suspect once in the upper left leg. The 22-year-old man was rushed to Einstein Medical Center in stable condition. Some nearby residents who did not want to be identified say they saw the shooting unfold.
He was on the ground and she shot him. It's a bunch of bull. We are tired. We ain't taking it no more. She didn't tase him. She didn't mace him. She shot him in his legs. What happened?
Staff Inspector Kinnebrew did acknowledge that he realizes tensions are high within the community and he understands their frustrations. We're told that officer was placed on administrative duty, which is standard protocol. We're live outside of police headquarters. I'm Kimberly Davis, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Kimberly, thank you.
We begin tonight with a deadly confrontation between Philadelphia police and a suspect. Good evening, everyone. I'm Yuki Washington. The shooting happened in the 1500 block of Pratt Street near SEPTA's Frankfurt Transportation Center. Eyewitness News reporter Greg Argos is following the story for you tonight.
This box cutter, police say, held by a man without a shirt threatening a SEPTA employee.
The shirtless male was chasing him down the street.
Shortly after 5 Friday evening, that civilian worker flagging down 2 Philadelphia police officers here at the 1500 block of Pratt Street in the Frankfurt section of Philadelphia.
The officers give him repeated commands to drop the knife.
But Staff Inspector Sekou Kinnebrew says that man decided not to listen to those responding officers.
The male ultimately ended up lunging at the officers, and one of the officers, a 28-year-old officer with 7 years experience assigned to the 15th district, did discharge his firearm one time.
Police rushing the suspect to Jefferson Torresdale Hospital, where he died around 5:45.
Honestly, my stomach is in knots.
24-year-old Brittany Charles works nearby and says she saw the entire thing unfold as she was on a FaceTime call with a friend.
When I first seen he was angry. He was enraged about something. He was walking up on the cop, the cop had his gun pointing at him.
She says she simply wishes the outcome was different.
Somebody could have grabbed him and detained him or something.
have your officer-involved shooting investigation unit, detectives investigating, but we also have internal affairs doing a concurrent investigation as well.
In the Frankfurt section of Philadelphia, Greg Argos, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Well, the search is on for two suspects who robbed a dollar store in Philadelphia. Take a look at this surveillance video. On Tuesday, April 21st, police say the two suspects held up the Germantown dollar store on Germantown Avenue. One of the suspects grabbed the cash register from the counter, and both then took off. The thieves got away with about $600. No one was injured. If you have any information, contact Philadelphia police.
And the search is on for looters caught on camera cleaning out a Frankfurt store. Nearly 24 suspects took electronics, jewelry, clothing, and attempted to crack open a safe. This all happened on the 4700 block of Frankfurt Avenue on June 1st. So tonight, the search intensifies for a man wanted in a terrifying, near-deadly attack on two roommates. I'm Jessica Cartalia. Yuki will join us in just a few minutes. Philadelphia police say the man broke into an Overbrook apartment, raped a woman, and then shot her roommate. Alexandria Hoff with why police say this attack is so concerning.
As heavy winds pounded the region, the leafy and normally quiet Brockton Road in Overbrook Park remained shaken by something else.
I think you should be worried, yeah.
Philadelphia police are searching for a man who they say within the span of 1 hour early Sunday morning broke into cars, broke into a home, raped a woman, and then shot another.
I think, quite frankly, he was going around trying to get into vehicles or anything he could. And I think he forced his way inside the property.
Just after 5 a.m. Sunday, officers were called to the 7400 block of Brockton Road, where they found a 23-year-old female who had been shot. This woman, authorities say, confronted an intruder as he assaulted and raped her 21-year-old roommate.
Told him to take what he wanted but leave. At that point, she was shot in the abdomen.
She was rushed to the hospital in critical condition. The offender then fled the residence, but police say he left plenty of evidence behind, including this.
If you look very closely, when you go up later on, you'll see this male is armed. He's armed with a handgun on the left side of his pants.
Nearby surveillance cameras caught a man matching the suspect description, casing and breaking into multiple cars immediately before the attack.
You can see it's a pretty good shot of his face right there.
Investigators say the man did not know his two victims and may have been lured into the home by nothing more than a faulty lock. Police advise that those living in the Overbrook Park area and beyond should make sure that your doors and windows are fully secured. Of course, if you recognize the man in that video, please contact police. He is considered armed and dangerous. Alexandria Hoff, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
The Philadelphia Police Department is searching for a missing 12-year-old girl. Indy Lamb Whitest was last seen March 3rd in the 1500 block of Arch Street. She's about 4 feet 10 inches tall and weighs about 130 pounds. If you have any information, contact police. And Philadelphia are also searching for a missing 17-year-old. Tamira Jones was last seen Saturday, May 2nd in the 5400 block of Norfolk Street. She is 5 foot 3 inches tall, weighs about 165 pounds. Again, if you have any information, contact Philadelphia police.
Police in East Germantown are searching for a suspect after a shooting that injured a teenager late last night. Investigators say an 18-year-old was shot once in the back as he entered a car on the 500 block of East Duval Street around 11:30 last night. He's in stable condition at a hospital. The gunman ran on foot.
The only description of the shooter is a male wearing a surgical mask, also a dark-colored hooded sweatshirt, who fled on foot westbound from the 500 block of Duval Street.
So far, police have no motive for the shooting. Investigators collected 5 shell casings from a semi-automatic handgun at the scene.
Philadelphia police are hoping you can help them track down the suspects involved in a gunfight in Olney. Take a look at the surveillance video showing one of the men just before 9:30 last Sunday night on the 5900 block of Lawrence Street. Police say at least 2 men were firing at each other in a back driveway while a gathering took place inside of a home. If you have any information about these suspects, please contact police.
Overnight, Philadelphia police are trying to determine who shot a 21-year-old man in the stomach on the 2200 block of West Tioga Street. When police arrived to the scene around 4 o'clock this morning, they found the man on his porch. He's now listed in critical condition.
A young man is fighting for his life after he was shot multiple times in North Philadelphia. The shooting happened just after 1 o'clock this afternoon in the area of 2nd and Cumberland. Officers rushed the 28-year-old victim to the hospital where we're told he's in critical condition. So far, no one has been arrested.
Police are looking for the person who shot at least 4 people this morning in Kensington. Shots rang out on the 1800 block of Hart Lane. Police say the victims are all expected to survive. Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw was at the scene and says enough is enough.
This is ridiculous, and it's beyond, again, pandemic aside. Summer is coming. Our kids are already out of school. We're seeing mothers with young children taking cover behind cars to avoid gunshots. This has to stop.
Police believe this was a drive-by shooting. They're looking for a dark blue or black Nissan.
Police are still looking for the person who shot and killed a man in North Philadelphia. Eyewitness News on the 2800 block of Bonsall Street. Police say a 46-year-old man was shot in the head. He died just before 9 o'clock tonight at Temple University Hospital.
A violent night in Philadelphia continued into the morning after a man dies in Port Richmond. The 50-year-old was found around 11 in the 2600 block of East Ann Street. Police say he suffered blunt force trauma to the head and face. He was pronounced dead at the scene. There's no word yet on a suspect or a motive. Eyewitness News reporter Trent.
As we continue to follow breaking news, a 9-year-old boy shot and killed in East Germantown. Police were called out to the home in the 5900 block of North 20th Street just before 9:30. The child who was shot in the face died at Albert Einstein Medical Center just before 10 p.m. Police Commissioner Danielle Outlaw spoke just moments ago.
We don't believe at this time that there's anyone else at risk of being harmed, and there's evidence to believe that there might be some negligence involved in this, but obviously the investigation is ongoing.
So far, police have not made any arrests nor found the gun that was used. The child was found in a rear bedroom. It's unclear whether someone shot him or if he shot himself.
Just into us, Philadelphia police have charged this teenager with a frightening attack in West Philadelphia. They say 17-year-old Earl Davis broke into an apartment on the 5800 block of Spruce earlier this month. He's accused of sexually assaulting one woman and shooting her roommate when she confronted him. The woman who was shot was critically hurt.
This is in front of the Apple store.
Oh shit, really?
This is a Modelo. Go. This is in front of the Apple store.
Following some breaking news this noon, police are investigating a disturbing find, the body of a woman in a suitcase. Investigators say that suitcase was found on the street this morning near the intersection of Kensington and Allegheny in Philadelphia. We, of course, will continue to follow this story and bring you more information as we get it.
Look now as Philadelphia police investigate a fatal shooting in Port Richmond. This is a live picture of the scene. This is the 2700 block of East Thompson Street. We've learned that the victim was struck in the shoulder and back. We're still working on gathering more details, but you can see the investigation seems to focus on an SUV there. We'll bring you an update as soon as we get more information.
Developing tonight, newly released surveillance video showing 2 men whom police believe were involved in a shooting. Police say these men shot a man in East Mount Airy on Monday. The victim did survive. If you know anything, police want to hear from you.
Breaking overnight, we just learned new information about a shooting that we've been telling you about in Port Richmond. This is a live look at the scene on the 2700 block of East Somerset Street. The alleged shooter tells police he shot the man after he caught him trying to steal DJ equipment from his trailer. The alleged thief then ran a block away to his SUV that was waiting on East Thompson Street, and that's where he collapsed. Medics pronounced him dead at the scene. Police say the victim's girlfriend was waiting at that vehicle. She's being questioned right now. Police tell us they recovered DJ equipment from the victim's SUV.
Another shooting to tell you about, this one in Northern Liberties. Police found a 24-year-old man shot in the head in the parking garage near the Acme on West Girard Avenue. He's currently in critical condition and officers are still looking for the shooter.
A man in his 80s is in the hospital after Philadelphia police say that he was grazed by a bullet while he was sitting in his car. Police Commissioner Daniel Outlaw says that officers were called to the 2500 block of North 18th Street in North Philadelphia just before 4 o'clock. We're told that they found the man with a graze wound to his back. Police say he is in stable condition.
This morning, Philadelphia police are searching for a gunman after a man is shot in a drive-by shooting in Francisville. Gunfire erupted just after 11 last night at North 16th and Ogden Streets. Police say the 58-year-old victim was visiting a friend's house. They were out front when someone pulled up in a car and opened fire and then sped off. The victim was shot in the back. Officials say the incident was captured on nearby surveillance cameras.
It may be related to an argument with other members inside of the property where the 58-year-old victim was visiting. That's a possibility.
Well, the victim is in critical condition. Police say they are looking for a sedan-type vehicle, possibly gray, with a black driver's door. Again, so far, no arrests have been made.
A man who was shot 8 times in Kensington tonight has died. It happened at F and Cornwall Streets. Police say any eyewitness identified the shooter, and there is plenty of surveillance video, but so far there have been no arrests. We're told that the victim was 43 years old.
Well, new at noon, police are investigating a shooting in North Philadelphia this morning. Police say a man was shot several times just before 8:30 on the 3300 block of North Hancock Street. The man was rushed to Temple University Hospital, where he's listed in stable condition. There are no arrests to report at this time.
Violence. Police say a man was shot and killed in the driveway of his home in Oxford Circle. The 45-year-old victim was found on the lawn on the front of his house near the Boulevard and Elbridge Street. His car was running nearby. Investigators say 7 shots were fired. Some of those shots hit the car. Police have no suspects, but hope to learn more from neighborhood security cameras.
Breaking overnight, a 50-year-old man is shot and killed in Philadelphia's Kingsessing neighborhood. Police say the man was just feet from his home when he was shot in the chest just after 1:30 this morning on the 5400 block of South Udall Street. Neighbors say they heard an argument before the gunshots, and detectives are now trying to determine if there is a second shooting victim. They're also checking surveillance cameras for a possible suspect.
A man is stabbed in Center City. Now, Philadelphia police are searching for his attacker. This happened around 9 last night at 15th and Market Streets. We're told the victim was stabbed in the head and the hip. Police rushed the victim to the hospital, where he's listed in stable condition. Investigators are working to determine a motive for that attack. Philadelphia police are looking for a person of interest who was seen on surveillance video around the same time as a sexual assault and shooting. The assault happened Sunday at around 5:20 in the 7400 block of Brockton Road. That's in West Philadelphia. Police say an unknown male entered a basement apartment bedroom and sexually assaulted one woman. He shot a second woman and then fled. If you've seen this person of interest, contact the Special Victims Unit of the Philadelphia Police Department.
New this morning, police are searching for the person who shot a woman in West Philadelphia overnight. This shooting happened along the 7400 block of Brockton Road. Police tell us the woman was shot in the stomach. Her condition is still unknown this morning. So far, no arrests.
Philadelphia police are trying to identify the suspects in this video. They say a pharmacy in Port Richmond was broken into early Tuesday morning. The front glass smashed and several men crawled through the hole there. Police say money and prescription drugs were taken. If you recognize any of those people, call police.
Also tonight, Philadelphia police are investigating a triple shooting that left a 26-year-old man dead. Gunshots were heard just before 8 o'clock tonight near 61st and Buist in southwest Philadelphia. A 30-year-old man was also shot. He's listed in stable condition at the University of Pennsylvania. The third gunshot victim is a 22-year-old man who's in critical condition at Penn Presbyterian Medical Center. No one has been arrested as of yet.
A woman has turned herself in for the hit and run of a bicycle officer during last Saturday's riots. Police say 41-year-old Angela Hall is now facing attempted murder and aggravated assault charges for allegedly running over Officer Antonio Nieves on May 30th by 7th and Chestnut. The disturbing incident was caught on cell phone. Nieves' fiance says he is off a ventilator but suffered a broken scapula, had 12 broken ribs, and also several cracked vertebrae.
A new video just into our newsroom. Police are searching for a gunman who shot a 28-year-old woman in the Carroll Park neighborhood of West Philadelphia. Investigators say the woman was shot in the leg near 58th and West Thompson Street at about 3:30 this morning. She's in stable condition right now. Police say there are surveillance cameras in that neighborhood that could help identify the gunman.
At the latest on the headlines right out of Philadelphia, the city's curfew has now expired after police spent the night trying to control the looting that began yesterday afternoon. This is what Center City looks like right now. Hours of looting has left streets there littered with the contents of ransacked stores. Eyewitness News reporter Dan Koob is live in Center City for us now, where the police presence is still very strong as thieves continue to steal. Dan.
Jan, we have seen some looting throughout the morning, including in our first live shot. We saw 4, 5, 6 gentlemen jumping in and out of Modell's with arms full of merchandise. But now we're seeing the cleanup efforts beginning to begin. A lot of people are coming out of their homes, coming to their businesses, looking to try and sweep up. Earlier, this entire sidewalk on Sansom Street, about 17th and Sansom, across the street from the back bar, just littered with shoeboxes that were empty. And now people are starting to try to clean up throughout Walnut Street, Chestnut Street, Sansom Street as we've walked around. But the toll is certainly now being taken. We're going to talk to Arnold Slacken. He's the manager at Adolph Beaker Salon here in Center City. As you can see, the front window here smashed to pieces last night. Sir, thank you so much for joining us. You said you arrived around 6 o'clock this morning. What did you say?
Approximately 6:15, waited for the curfew to be allowed. Upon arrival here, there were 15 or 20 people packing up stuff from the sneaker store and all that, and it was just an absolute mess.
Have you had any chance to take inventory of what's remaining in your store?
To be honest with you, I haven't been able to take complete inventory because, you know, just seeing what happened here already, you can already see that all of our thousands of dollars worth of our retail has been taken off the shelves and all that. I haven't had a chance to do anything, you know, to inspect the rest of the place. It's 7,000 square feet. So fortunately, once I get in there, we won't find any other damage.
Your first thought, I mean, because you look through and you see the windows broken and your shelves have been displaced and there's things everywhere.
Pardon me?
Your first thought upon seeing?
I was shocked. It broke my heart. It broke my heart to see how hard we work. We've been in business in the city of Philadelphia for over 85 years. We're a mainstay in the city. We have other locations here. We have 3 schools in the city, one on Old City, one on 40th and Chestnut. And it's just heart-wrenching to see what has happened, you know.
What's the rest of your day look like right now?
The rest of my day, I'm going to stay here until we can get our place boarded up and secure, and just stay by and hope that nothing happens tonight. And
Arnold, thank you so much. Unfortunately, Jan, this is the story for many business owners here in the Center City District, as today they are trying to clean up and potentially brace for more protests later in the day. We'll go back to you.
All right, and we know you'll keep us up to date. Thanks, Dan. We'll see you again at 8:30.
Well, a shooting overnight in Philadelphia leaves a teenager fighting for his life. The 15-year-old was shot multiple times on the 5100 block of North Camac Street in Logan. Investigators don't have a motive just yet, but they're looking to see if the teen was part of a larger group hanging out nearby.
We believe several teenagers and possibly young adults were hanging out inside of a newly refurbished home in the 5100 block of Camac Street. It appears the house had been broken into.
Police say they recovered 2 guns from the scene. They're looking to gather surveillance footage for more clues.
Philadelphia police are looking for 3 men wanted as part of a dangerous trend that's happening around the region lately. Surveillance video shows an ATM getting blown up late Tuesday night at a restaurant on West Ruscombe Street in Logan. Now, police say one of the suspects warned a customer to leave, then another suspect lit the explosive device. There have been dozens of similar ATM explosions over the last few days. Tonight, West Philadelphia is the epicenter of the unrest in the city. Crowds began setting property and police vehicles on fire around the area 52nd and Market this afternoon. This really hit home for me. I grew up in this area, the Nixon movie theater, shopping with my parents. This neighborhood, like all our neighborhoods and stores, has quite the legacy. When I was a kid, Dr. King commented on the saying, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. He said all that does is create a lot of blind and toothless people. He said nobody wins, and that the time is always right to do the right thing. Please stop, please. Chopper 3 was over 69th Street in Upper Darby this afternoon, where looters were spotted taking merchandise from a store. Upper Darby instituted a curfew at 8 p.m., and that runs until 6 a.m. Hello, everyone. I'm Yuki Washington. A citywide curfew is once again in effect until 6 a.m. All businesses in Philadelphia have been ordered to shut down. SEPTA has stopped all service until tomorrow morning. So how did we get here? It's been a second straight day of destruction after a peaceful protest following the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis took a violent turn. Officers have been injured, property destroyed, and livelihoods shattered. The National Guard has been called in to help. Joe Holden has more on the state of the city and what's being done to restore order.
Day 2 of violence, chaos, and disorder on Philadelphia streets, taxing the city's police force. High-ranking department sources tell CBS 3 in Kensington and North Philadelphia, looters overpowered law enforcement's ability to respond. The city, in a Sunday evening news conference, confirmed officers were outnumbered.
Our officers are going to take in mind their own personal safety in order to respond to these issues. Obviously, they put their lives on the line every day, but they're going to do it in a smart way. So that by no means was enforcement lax last night. It was really a matter of manpower.
More looting into the night despite an imposed 6 p.m. curfew. Police eventually got the upper hand along business corridors near Temple Hospital. Germantown Avenue storefronts were largely defenseless against earlier mobs of people.
We couldn't take every officer out of every district in the city and send them to a store that's being looted without losing the district of the neighborhood. So it's a Hobson's choice.
The National Guard is now expected as Philadelphia is in critical condition. The number of officers injured is on the rise. A police spokesperson said late Sunday night they were working to identify those arrested and reveal where they're from. Further authorization to release that information would have to come from the district attorney's office, he said.
Justice!
Outside police headquarters earlier, a calmer show of disagreement. People chanted the name George Floyd and "I can't breathe," a phrase that has suddenly become a rally cry of those looking for substantive dialogue with leaders.
People are angry. You know, people are angry with the racial discrimination going on in this country. It's been going on a long time. I mean, it happens in the workplace. It happens with neighbors. It happens when you walk in the store and people are angry. And we're out here protesting.
Joe Holden reporting.
Fishtown is taking a page from Black Lives Matter supporters in Washington, D.C. Tonight, residents painted the words "End Racism Now" on Girard Avenue. Chopper 3 over the large yellow letters near Montgomery Avenue. Pastor John Bryce says they are continuing the momentum of justice and peace 1 week after the protests over George Floyd's death began in Philadelphia.
We're continuing to change the hearts and hold people accountable, including the police district and Captain Fisher, who is 100% on board, working with the neighbors that are about changing.
In Washington, D.C., the mayor painted the words "Black Lives Matter" on the street leading to the White House.
Well, after a week of unrest, Philadelphia has suffered millions of dollars in damage. More than 700 people arrested. Community legacies have suffered. That's the story in West Philadelphia on 52nd Street after Sunday's looting. Before commuting to Dover, Delaware as a young teenager, West Philly is where I grew up. The same for State Senator Vincent Hughes. We both attended Henry Charles Lee Elementary. Recently, we both briefly lowered our mask and revealed some real conversation about that night in the neighborhood. Around the city, literal and figurative fires continue to burn. Scenes of violence and despair. It's heartbreaking.
The thing that helped me feel better was all the folks who showed up Monday morning to help clean up.
There's a lot across the street. We're going through some trials right now and tribulation, if you want to say. But this makes a difference when we can come together in a positive way. You know you can.
Yes, I do. We can deal with the issue of protest and anger, but it's got to be directed, and it's got to be about changing something. Can't be about destruction.
What about the young people that were out here? What do you say to them?
We got to open up our ears and listen to what is it they're saying. And then we got to teach also. We got to embrace them. This McDonald's we're in front of. This is a black-owned McDonald's, Craig Wellborn. He has helped, he has given back in numerous situations. Big donor to Cheney University. Okay. But we got to tell them that story so that they see that there's another path. They see that there's another way, okay? And that you don't destroy what it is that we spent time building.
I ended my newscast last night by saying, we can and we shall overcome.
Yeah.
Can we?
Yes, absolutely. You lose that hope, then we've lost everything. Brother Floyd's murder was so real right in front of us. You actually saw the life leave his body.
I can breathe.
But when you see that actually happen and you see that it's leading up, just in a 3-week period, not to mention 3 or 4 years, or 300 or 400 years, okay? You see that loss and you say, and so it's like real. Bad policing, that's the DNA of our country.
It's a shame that so few, and they're bad, so few have to ruin it for so many.
For everybody.
Yeah.
They ruin it for everybody.
Because they're good cops. There are some great cops.
Tons of them, okay? Overwhelming number of great police officers who enter a very difficult job. That is a job that I would not do.
How do we heal?
Conversation is real, okay? Talking to folks, engaging, but it can't stop at conversation. It's got to be policy changes. The community has to develop the vision, okay? And we're going to work side by side with the community, as we were before the craziness happened, all right, to turn this thing around.
Appreciate you. Family, this is it. You know, I always use the word family all the time. We're going to get through this.
It's about community, it's about neighborhood. And the destruction and the violence takes away from that reality. They don't see the history. They don't see the incredible diversity that is on 52nd Street now.
Just look around.
I mean,
just look around.
African shops, Asian shops, right. Muslim shops, you know, just a mix of everything.
And the diversity is here now helping to restore.
Exactly. That's why we can believe. That's why we can hope. That's why we know it'll come back better.
This planet is my neighborhood. I should be able to go anywhere at any time and be free.
You can be angry, and we all are angry about the abuse, about the murder of Brother Floyd, but you can't tear down your own community.
Time to rebuild.
Time to rebuild.
Time to rebuild. Editor Mike Henry with that ending shot that says so much. Time to rebuild on so many levels. Jess?
Yuki, thank you for that.
And while today's demonstrations have been peaceful, just a week ago, businesses across the city experienced devastating destruction and losses. This after, of course, some protests turned violent with high incidents of looting. Continuing our coverage, Dan Koob visited a supermarket reopening for the first time since it was ransacked.
Oh my God!
For 15 hours, this ShopRite at 52nd and Parkside in West Philly was stripped clean by looters. Floors covered with food, aisles devastated.
This is your neighborhood ShopRite, where you eat, where you shop, where you get your food.
For them to do that, have us, have them be closed, it was awful. It really was awful.
I was brought to tears because you have people like me that rely on their local grocery stores, and when you can't do that, what are you supposed to do? How are you supposed to feed your family?
Nichelle Whitfield was one of the first shoppers to re-enter the ShopRite Sunday morning as it reopened to the public, rebuilt. Without a car or market, not knowing where she'd be able to secure food for her family of 4.
It looks better than it did before.
One of the owners of the ShopRite, Sandy Brown, tells me it took 300 community members and staff to help get this store ready in 1 week's time.
This store is vital to this community. We need this store. Yeah, we don't have to go out to other, communities to go shopping. We need this store.
Registers and safes all had to be rebuilt, according to the owners. 14 self-checkout stands are now gone completely. Those floors now clean. A celebration of the reopening is scheduled for Monday morning. Could you have imagined this would only be closed for a week?
No, I really thought it was going to be closed much longer than that. I was just really trying to figure out what I was going to do for the next month. And when I saw them put on their Facebook page they were open in a week, I was so happy.
In West Philadelphia, Dan Koob, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
A man who the Philadelphia district attorney calls a contract killer is facing new charges. Stephen Williams is now charged with 4 counts of murder, conspiracy, and weapons offenses. Authorities say he collected thousands of dollars as a killer for hire over the past 2 years. Williams is accused in ambush-style shootings of 4 victims in Francisville, Ronhurst, East Mount Airy, and West Oak Lane. Williams is now behind bars on unrelated charges.
After a violent stretch in Philadelphia, community leaders came together tonight to call for peace. Eyewitness News cameras were rolling in Wharton Square Park in South Philadelphia for an emergency Peace Not Guns march. This weekend, nearly 36 people were shot, including 2 in Councilperson Kenyatta Johnson's district.
For me, it's about just coming out here, organizing with the community, saying enough is enough. Beyond just marching this rally, we're going to strategize, we're going to organize as a community from a grassroots level to figure out how can we stop this violence here in the city of Philadelphia when it comes to our young people carrying these guns.
As of July 5th, 210 people have been murdered in Philadelphia in 2020. That's a 27% increase compared to this same time last year.
And getting back to our headlines here this morning, breaking overnight, a double shooting leaves 1 man dead and another man hurt in North Philadelphia. Gunfire erupting around 11:30 last night on the 2300 block of West Diamond Street. Police say at least 39 shots were fired. A 20-year-old man was shot in the head and died at the hospital. A 25-year-old man was shot in the elbow. Investigators now working to determine a motive.
We know that normally a large group or medium to large group of people hang on the corner right here at 23rd and Diamond where they just hang out. Sometimes they play dice. Now, we don't know if there was a dice game involved today, even though we did find 3 dice on the sidewalk.
2 nearby homes and 3 parked cars were also struck by gunfire. No one inside was hurt. Police have not made any arrests.
Well, breaking news overnight, a man is dead, 3 others injured in a quadruple shooting in Philadelphia.
Eyewitness News reporter Matt Petrillo is live this morning at police headquarters with the latest on this investigation. Matt.
Good morning to you. Philadelphia police are still working to find a motive. What they do know is more than a dozen shots were fired from a semi-automatic weapon.
24th District Police responded to numerous 911 calls.
Philadelphia police rushed to the 1900 block of East Somerset Street in Kensington just after 11 o'clock Sunday night, initially finding 3 men with gunshot wounds. A 21-year-old man was shot in the leg and a 33-year-old man shot in the back. Both were taken to Temple University Hospital. A 3rd victim, a 38-year-old man, died before police could get to him.
While investigating the scene, we were notified that a 4th victim at this location was shot.
That victim, a 45-year-old man, was taken to a nearby hospital by someone at the scene. He was also shot in his leg.
We found 15 spent shell casings, some on the sidewalk, some on the highway. It appears that the shell casings are the same caliber. It appears just from a visual inspection.
Now detectives are combing the neighborhood, looking for any security video that might have captured the gunman and the moments before the gunfire erupted.
Our crime scene unit is going to process the scene due to the fact that it is a homicide.
And again, 1 man is dead, a 2nd in critical condition. 2 others are in stable condition after that quadruple shooting in Kensington. Reporting live at Philadelphia Police Headquarters, Matt Petrillo, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
And we begin with breaking news tonight. A 15-year-old boy is alive after he was shot 17 times. A 2nd teenage boy was also hit. The 2 were along the 1000 block of Cambridge Street when they were shot around 8:30 this evening. The 1st teenager was taken to Temple University Hospital. The 2nd, who was shot in the leg, was taken to Jefferson Hospital. Both boys were last listed in stable condition. So far, no one has been arrested. Police are investigating a triple shooting in Southwest Philadelphia that left a young man dead. It happened around 5 o'clock on the 6000 block of Reinhardt. Police say a 19-year-old was shot in the head. He later died at the hospital. A 31-year-old man and a 29-year-old man were also shot and are in stable condition. No one has been arrested.
Center City shops already boarded up due to recent looting and unrest were burglarized yet again overnight. Police say the thieves pried open a back door. Eyewitness News reporter Alicia Reed live in Center City with more on the police investigation. Hi, Alicia.
Hey, Joe, police say those two stores behind me, the Men's Warehouse and the Old Navy, were not only looted during the recent riots, they were burglarized overnight. The alarms inside both stores were set off around 5 o'clock this morning, right here on the 1600 block of Chestnut Street. Now, police believe the suspects entered through the back of one store, then crossed over into the other. Authorities were able to track down at least one suspect near 16th and Sansom Streets after he was spotted pushing a shopping cart filled with stolen items. Over on the 1500 block of Walnut, police were back at the Champion store this evening investigating another burglary. Thieves broke into that structure about an hour before the burglaries here on Chestnut Street. Police say about 6 or 7 people broke in from the rear, prying the door open. Police responded within 5 minutes of the alarms going off to find 2 white men escaping the rear of the store with their arms filled with merchandise. Now, the officer waited for backup, then apprehended them on the 1500 block of Sampson Street. Those men are now in custody. Now, back at the Champion store, police also encountered a black female behind the counter ruffling through the drawers. She told them she was searching for mints, and in fact, police say both of her hands were filled with mints. She was also in possession of narcotics. Officers took her into custody for further investigation, and detectives are still searching for the other suspects involved in the burglaries. Now, in the meantime, we are working to confirm if all of these burglaries are related. Reporting live from Center City, Alicia Reed, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Alicia, thank you for that live report.
2 Philadelphia men are accused of breaking into 10 churches and stealing safes, precious metals, and other electronics. Prosecutors say Gabriel Minnick and Samaj Howard broke into the churches over the period of a month. Both right now are being held in the Montgomery County Jail. Katie Johnston for CBS Philly.
And breaking overnight, Philadelphia police are searching for a gunman after 2 young men are shot just feet away from an elementary school in East Mount Airy. The gunfire erupting just before 12:30 this morning on the 8000 block of Forest Avenue, which is right near Franklin S. Edmonds School. Police say the 2 21-year-old victims were sitting inside of a parked car with 2 friends when a gunman ambushed them. That driver is in stable condition. A passenger is listed as critical. This morning, 2 men hospitalized after a shooting in Philadelphia. This happening just before midnight on the 3300 block of Malta Street in Kensington. Police say the victims, both in their 20s, were shot in the legs and taken to the hospital in stable condition. Now, based on the evidence, investigators say they are looking for 2 shooters and the motive is unknown.
2 men are fighting for their lives after a double shooting in North Philadelphia. Gunfire erupted around 11:30 last night on North 10th and West Clearfield streets. Police say a 22-year-old man and a 27-year-old man were both shot. Both men are in critical condition. Investigators are working to determine a motive for the shooting. So far, no arrests have been made there. Police are also investigating another double shooting. This one happened in North Philadelphia around 11:30 last night at 5th and York Streets. Police say 2 men ages 22 and 25 were shot and taken to the hospital in a private vehicle. At last check, both of the men were in stable condition. There's no word on suspects or a motive in this shooting.
A report in Philadelphia this morning, this time in the city's Fair Hill section. 2 people are fighting for their lives after a double shooting overnight. Gunfire erupted on the 2800 block of Mutter Street. Both victims are in critical condition. No arrests have been made.
Developing tonight, police are searching for the person who shot 3 people in South Philadelphia. Gunshots in the 2100 block of Taney Terrace just before 6:30 this evening. 2 women and a man, all in their 20s, suffered wounds from the bullets. They're all expected to survive.
This morning, a man is shot in Kensington, and now Philadelphia police are searching for the shooter. Gunfire erupted around 12:30 this morning on East Lippincott and F Streets. Police found a 26-year-old man shot in the leg. He is in stable condition. Now investigators are working to determine a motive for that shooting.
The city's Overbrook Park section, a man is fighting for his life after he was shot in the head in a McDonald's parking lot. It happened around 4:30 this afternoon in the 7500 block of City Avenue. Police say the suspect was there to meet the victim for an unknown reason. The victim was behind the wheel of a GMC Yukon when he was shot. He then crashed into another car. Police say they do have a name of a suspect.
More gun violence to report this morning, this time in Philadelphia's Kensington neighborhood. Police searching for a killer after a man is shot to death overnight. It happened around 10:30 last night on the 1800 block of Allegheny Avenue. Police found the 28-year-old victim shot multiple times. He died at the hospital. No word on a motive for that shooting. A violent home invasion and shooting in Manayunk. Police say 3 men wearing ski masks kicked in the front door of a house on the 300 block of Burnside Street last night. Police say one of the suspects shot a 36-year-old man in the back. 2 other men in the home were also injured but were treated at the scene. Not clear at this point was what was taken from the property, and the suspects do remain at large. Breaking overnight, 3 people are rushed to the hospital after a triple shooting in Philadelphia's Crescentville neighborhood. This happened on the 4200 block of East Roosevelt Boulevard. At last check, 2 of the victims are in critical condition. A 3rd victim is listed as stable. Investigators are now working to determine what sparked the gunfire. So far, no arrests.
Philadelphia police are investigating a shooting that left a 41-year-old man dead this afternoon. It happened around 4 o'clock on the 4600 block of North Broad in Hunting Park. No one has been arrested. Detectives have another murder on their hands after a shooting in West Philadelphia this morning. Chopper 3 over the scene on the 200 block of South Alden Street. Police tell us a 20-year-old man was shot in the head and chest. He died about an hour later. Police did make an arrest.
To the rest of the violence toll that has seemingly touched every corner of the city, starting in Harrogate. Police say a 37-year-old woman is dead after she was shot for a total of 12 times. It happened this afternoon here in the 1900 block of Clarence Street. Police say an arrest was made. An identity has not been released. There's no word yet on a motive.
Jess and Yuki, the family is asking anyone who knows the whereabouts of their loved one's murderer to just do the right thing and turn him into police. They are preparing to bury Dominique tomorrow with her killer still on the run. He's considered armed and dangerous. 36-year-old Akhenaton Jones is wanted for the brutal murder of Dominique Fells. The 27-year-old trans woman's dismembered body was discovered last week, discarded in the Schuylkill River in southwest Philly.
We were always concerned about her. Whenever we saw her, we say, listen, be careful, make sure that you're safe, because we knew that there's a lot of hate out there for transgenders.
Dominique's family is beyond devastated.
We accepted her as who she identified as, and we just wanted the best for her.
Dominique knew Jermise and Roland Williams as her aunt and uncle. They tell us Dominique had a promising future in cosmetology and had a personality that could brighten any room.
Dominique has been full of life. She's always been very charismatic, very outgoing, outspoken.
There's an arrest warrant out for Jones. Detectives stopped by his home at 3927 Powelton Avenue, where they found several things, including a hazmat suit, blood stains, and a grinding tool with blood.
Turn him in. This was a gruesome death. How anybody could do this to another human being is just so heartless and cruel. No mother should have to go through this, and I'm speaking for my sister-in-law.
The family is grateful for the outpouring of support from across the country. A GoFundMe started for Dominique has already surpassed $120,000. Now the family is hoping an arrest comes quickly.
If one person can do that to another human being, what else is he capable of? And, in my eyes, if you're able to do that one time, you could do it again.
A march for Dominique is set for this Saturday in West Philadelphia. For more information on how you can attend that march, head over to cbsphilly.com. We're live outside of police headquarters. I'm Kimberly Davis, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Kimberly, thank you.
Police are investigating a double shooting in North Philadelphia. It happened around 11:30 last night on the 2500 block of North 9th Street. Investigators found 20 shell casings on the scene there. One of the victims is in critical condition after being shot in the face. The other victim is in stable condition after being shot in the arm and shoulder.
A man and woman sitting on a front porch in South Philadelphia are targeted in an overnight shooting. It happened around 1:30 this morning on the 1900 block of South Krosky Street. Police say a 30-year-old man from Ohio who's here visiting family was shot in the head and is in critical condition. The victim's 27-year-old girlfriend was shot in the foot. She's in stable condition. Police are now looking for two gunmen seen leaving that area.
Overnight now, unrest on a North Philadelphia street corner. A Philadelphia police cruiser near North Broad and West Clearfield is smashed by a large group of people. Investigators say the crowd also looted a gas station on that same corner. So far, no word on any injuries. Officers were able to get that crowd under control shortly after 12:30 this morning. We will keep you up to date.
Friends and family gathered for a vigil tonight to remember a 15-year-old football standout shot and killed while riding his bike in Overbrook. Balloons carrying messages of grief were released from the Frankfort High School football field where the teenager played. Philadelphia police believe that Angelo was an unintended target in a triple shooting last weekend. Investigators continue to search for his killer.
He was excelling in football. He danced, he rapped a little. He just did a little bit of everything. We're just deeply scarred and hurt, for losing him, and especially in this manner.
The football team took a knee together and shared a private moment. Football coach Bill Sitzma says that this is the third player that he has lost to gun violence.
Well, Philadelphia police are looking for people who made off with an ATM last month in Olney. So take a look at this surveillance video from Monday, June 1st, around 4:15 in the morning. A group of men went to the 4900 block of North 5th Street. They tied a strap around the ATM. Then they used a U-Haul van to break it loose. It's not known how much money was inside of the ATM, but the total damage estimated at that building area was $5,000.
Now take a look at this group of looters in North Philadelphia. They were wanted for breaking into the Stop and Save check cashing store on North 22nd Street earlier this month. You can see more than a dozen people pushing their way through security gates to steal money, counting machines, and ATM flat screen televisions and other items. Only 2 men are hospitalized after a shooting this evening. Police say shots were heard at 8th and Duncannon about 6:30. A 22-year-old who was shot in the head and leg is in critical condition. An 18-year-old shot in the back is stable. No one as of yet has been arrested. In North Philadelphia, 2 more men were shot around the same time. Police say the shooting happened on the 2400 block of North Park Avenue. The victims, a 51-year-old and a 31-year-old, are both stable. Police tell us they have made an arrest but have not provided any other information. In Mantua, a 21-year-old man is fighting for his life after he was shot several times inside a car. It happened around 4 this afternoon on the 3800 block of Folsom Street. Police say they are investigating the possibility that the shooting might have been drug-related. After SWAT officers brought about the peaceful ending to what Philadelphia police are calling a barricade situation. The standoff unfolded for hours this afternoon at the city's Abbotsford Homes development in the East Falls section of the city. Joe Holden reports.
Good evening. Right now it is unclear what charges this man may find himself facing after this incident that stretched all afternoon. SWAT officers were able to bring it to a peaceful resolution. Police telling me nobody was hurt, but things were very tense here in the East Falls section of the city for some time. We are at the Abbotsford Home development where SWAT officers and uniform officers and undercover officers were swarming this area. A man police say they first tried to stop because it appeared he was trying to allegedly conceal a firearm in his waistband, retreated into a home here at the Abbotsford Homes development. Investigators say he refused to come out. It was also believed he had a child with him. Well, the SWAT team and police negotiators were called in to help defuse what could have been a volatile situation. For a while, police had weapons trained on the end unit where that man had barricaded himself. At around 2:45, a woman and child left the residence, and then 5 minutes later, the man peacefully surrendered. Police tell me they are in the process of gathering details as if this woman was either held against her will or if she was there and just allowed to eventually leave. But both left within 5 minutes of each other. The man handcuffed outside by police and again taken booked and is now facing questions for what all led up to this. Of course, it is a developing story. We are waiting to learn his identity. But for now, that's the latest. I'm Joe Holden, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Chopper 3 over the scene of an officer-involved shooting in South Philadelphia. This is in the area of South 5th and McClellan Streets. Police were in the area responding to a shooting where they ended up exchanging gunfire with a man. One person was arrested. No one was hurt. A heartbreaking end to a missing persons case. A Haverford woman's body was found stuffed in a trash bag in Philadelphia's East Germantown neighborhood. Now authorities believe they have found her killer. Joe Holden reports.
And while the suspected killer in this case concealed the victim's whereabouts for a month, his secret wasn't safe. Arrest papers claim he told as many as a half a dozen people what he had done. Before leading police to this wooded vacant lot in East Germantown, arrest papers show Kareem Davis Duppins had for a week hid Sabrina DeBose's body in an elevator shaft at an Upper Darby apartment complex. In late May, Davis Duppins transferred DeBose remains to the 5700 block of Musgrave Street in East Germantown, according to court documents filed on Wednesday. Davis Duppins claims he strangled DeBose following an argument over cash and drugs on May 22nd.
Mr. Duppins was taken into custody yesterday and admitted to his role in the killing and hiding of Sabrina's body, then moving that body, taking that body to the Germantown section of Philadelphia.
The 25-year-old Haverford woman was reported missing in late May. Surveillance video last showed her in the area of 69th Street in Upper Darby. Davis Duppins claims the two met on the L. He says they went back to an apartment facility where he worked. Court papers show at least 6 witnesses told police David Duppins implicated himself in killing DeBose.
They met casually on May 22nd. Somehow they met on public transportation and they had an interaction from there, a social interaction that turned deadly.
Davis Duppins is now being held without bail on charges of first-degree murder and abuse of a corpse. He'll return to court for a preliminary hearing. In Upper Darby, Joe Holden, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
And a shooting in West Philadelphia leaves a man critically injured. Shots rang out after 1 o'clock this morning on the 200 block of Hobart Street. Neighbors tell police they heard some sort of an argument before they heard the gunshots. Police say the 33-year-old victim was shot in the head. There's no word on any arrest there.
Philadelphia police also looking for a gunman after a man was shot in the city's Cobbs Creek section. This happened around 2:30 this morning on the 6200 block of Chestnut Street. Police say the victim was shot in the stomach. He's listed as critical. Investigators are working to determine a motive in that case.
We're back with a man fighting for his life after he was shot overnight in Philadelphia's Kensington neighborhood. This happened just after 1:30 this morning on the 1800 block of East Somerset Street. Eyewitnesses tell police the victim was sitting in a parked car with his girlfriend when the gunman shot through the windshield, striking the man several times. The victim is in extremely critical condition. Police are still looking for that gunman.
Tonight, Philadelphia police are investigating a shooting here in the Grace Ferry section of the city. Eyewitness News along the 1600 block of South Edding Street. Police say a man was shot 11 times while sitting in a car. He was rushed to the hospital where he's listed in critical condition. So far, there are no arrests.
Breaking overnight, police are investigating after a man is found shot dead in a car. That victim found on the 4300 block of Emma Street in Philadelphia's Juniata Park section. Police say the victim was 29 years old. No word yet on any arrest or a motive in the shooting.
One man is dead following a shooting in Philadelphia's East Germantown neighborhood. A 51-year-old man was found shot in the head on the 5500 block of Bloyd Street early this morning. We're told he was found inside of a vacant home not far from LaSalle. Police are now looking for eyewitnesses who were in the area at the time. So far, no arrests have been made.
Back now with breaking news. A man is gunned down outside of a hotel in northeast Philadelphia. Eyewitness News at Grant and the Boulevard outside the Four Points Sheridan. Eyewitness News confirms a 25-year-old man was shot in the back and leg. He's in critical condition. Police are still looking for the gunman.
He's trying to track down the killer after an apparent drive-by shooting in Logan. This happened around midnight near 11th and Loden. Eyewitnesses telling investigators that someone in an SUV shot a 40-year-old man. He died less than an hour later from a gunshot wound to the hip.
We don't have a motive, even though we believe the victim or the victim was with individuals playing dice on the corner. We don't know why this individual just drove by and began to fire shots.
Police are now checking surveillance cameras, hoping it will lead them to a gunman. A man is shot and killed overnight in North Philadelphia. Gunfire erupting around 1:30 this morning on the 1700 block of North 23rd Street. Police found a man there shot multiple times in the chest. He later died at the hospital. Police believe the victim was riding a rented Indigo bike when he was shot. So far, no word on a motive and no arrests. Philadelphia police are searching for a gunman after a shooting left a man fighting for his life in Tioga. Now, that gunfire erupted around 1 o'clock this morning at North 20th and Bellevue Streets. Police say the victim was shot multiple times, managed to run to get help. He's now critical. Investigators are working to determine a motive for that gunfire.
New this morning, Philadelphia police are searching for a gunman after a man was shot in Kensington. Gunfire erupted around midnight at Somerset and Emerald Streets. Police found a man shot in the stomach. He told police that he thought he heard fireworks. Then he realized he was hit. He's in stable condition. Investigators are now working to determine a motive. This morning, a 27-year-old man is in critical condition after he was shot multiple times in North Philadelphia. Police say he was shot sometime before midnight on the 2000 block of Judson Street. So far, no word on who may have pulled the trigger.
Philadelphia police are investigating a deadly shooting overnight. Around 2:30 this morning, police were called out to the 4300 block of M Street. That's where they found a 23-year-old man in a silver Chevrolet with multiple gunshot wounds. No word on the victim's identity, and so far, no arrests in that case.
Philadelphia police are investigating a deadly shooting overnight. It happened just before 3 o'clock this morning on the 3100 block of Lee Street. That's in Kensington. Police say the 32-year-old victim was shot at least 5 times, including in his head. He was taken to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. A BMW was found parked next to the victim. It was also hit by the gunfire. Police say the car is not registered to that victim.
A man is shot and killed, execution style, in broad daylight in North Philadelphia. It happened on the 2700 block of North Grant Street. Police say the 40-year-old victim was shot 5 times at close range. He died at Temple University Hospital. Investigators are looking for 2 people who were last seen running 2 blocks from where the shooting occurred.
Man is dead tonight after a shooting in southwest Philadelphia. Eyewitness News at 64th Street and Greenway Avenue. Police say around 7, the victim was shot 4 times. He died at the hospital. So far, there have been no arrests.
And another man shot overnight, this time in Philadelphia's East Germantown. This happened around 1:30 this morning on the 6900 block of Worcester Street. Police say the 62-year-old victim was sitting inside of his car in front of his house when a gunman opened fire, striking the victim in the back. He's in stable condition. Police are still searching for the gunman.
More deadly violence this afternoon, this time touching South Philadelphia. Police say a 20-year-old was shot in the head several times in the 1300 block of South 17th. That's in the Port Breeze neighborhood. This happened at 3:30. Paramedics pronounced him dead at the scene. Another man was shot in the back and rushed to the hospital. No arrests have been made.
New tonight, a man is dead following a shooting in South Philadelphia. Eyewitness News at 24th and Oakford. Police say a 24-year-old man was shot several times just before 7:30 tonight. He died at the hospital. Police say they will review surveillance video from the area. No one has been arrested yet.
Philadelphia police are investigating several shootings, including this one where a man died. Happened around 2:30 this morning on the 3200 block of West Susquehanna Avenue in Strawberry Mansion. Police say the victim was shot at least 4 times. He was taken to the hospital where he later died. There's no word right now on suspects or a motive in this shooting.
And breaking overnight, a man is shot to death near the Roosevelt Boulevard in Olney. Philadelphia police are now searching for his killer. This all happened just before 11:30 last night on the 4800 block of North 5th Street. Police say the victim and another man were sitting inside of a car when a gunman opened fire. That victim was struck multiple times. He died at the hospital. The other man has an injury to his arm. Authorities say they're now checking nearby surveillance cameras for clues.
Still mainly a residential neighborhood, and for someone to fire at least 8 shots into a vehicle at 5th and Roosevelt Boulevard is definitely a brazen act of violence.
Investigators are now working to determine what sparked the gunfire. So far, no arrests. Good morning, I'm Janelle Burrell. We are following breaking news just into Eyewitness News. A tense barricade situation in Nicetown. This is video just in showing police and SWAT officers along the 4300 block of Germantown Avenue. Authorities say they were at the location to serve a warrant for a homicide. They say a man barricaded himself inside of an apartment there. Of course, we'll continue to stay on top of this story and bring you more information as it becomes available. An update for you now on a barricade situation in Nicetown. Police say they found a man with a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. He was pronounced dead this morning. Police and SWAT officers gathered on the 4300 block of Germantown Avenue. Authorities say they were at the location to serve a warrant for a homicide.
A man and a woman are fighting for their lives following a double shooting in southwest Philadelphia. This is new tonight. Eyewitness News on the 2200 block of South 63rd Street. The man was shot several times in the upper torso. The woman was shot once in the lower back. So far, no one has been arrested.
Over the holiday weekend, a grim reminder about the gun violence crisis in Philadelphia. More than 30 people were shot between Friday and Sunday, and 7 people were killed. And as Eyewitness News reporter Dan Koob tells us, one of those victims was only 6 years old.
31 people shot, 7 dead in Philadelphia. Among the gunshot victims, 8 are under the age of 21, including a 15, 11, and 6-year-old. Violence stretching from the far northeast on the 4600 block of Kendrick Street, where a 6-year-old was killed, shot in the chest.
I don't know what happened. I know it's going to be super, super sad. I mean, I know the family and I know the little guy. I mean, it's really upsetting.
To Overbrook, where 3 people were hit on the 6100 block of Nassau Road, including a 15-year-old who later was pronounced dead. Few areas were spared. 5 shootings involved more than 1 victim. The violence promoted this tweet from Mayor Jim Kenney, quote, "This weekend is a stark reminder that COVID-19 is not our only crisis. Gun violence continues to traumatize our communities and cut lives short."
COVID is one of the epidemics we're dealing with, but we're also continuing to deal with the prevalence of homicides and shootings in our community. Prayerfully, we can find out who committed this crime, and we can bring some peace and closure to the members of this community.
Homicides in the city are up 22% over 1 year ago and are now up to 202 in total, according to police statistics. 2020 is on pace to be the deadliest year in the city of Philadelphia since 2007. Outside police headquarters, Dan Koob, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Philadelphia police are investigating the murder of a black transgendered woman. She was found in the Schuylkill River earlier this week. As our Trang Do tells us, her death is part of a disturbing trend.
For my first thought to be not again means that this is happening way too much.
Anger and sadness from many in Philadelphia's LGBT community as they mourn the violent murder of Dominique Remy Fells. Fells' dismembered body was discovered in the Schuylkill River near a dock in southwest Philadelphia Monday evening, but she was not positively identified until Thursday. Transgender activist Deja Lynn Alvarez says she didn't know Fells well, but met her through the tight-knit community.
In our community, whether you know each other personally or not, there's a sisterhood, there's a kinship there. And oftentimes if it affects one of us, it kind of affects all of us.
A GoFundMe account started by Fells' family to help with funeral costs has far and beyond exceeded its $1,000 goal. The city's Office of LGBT Affairs released a statement on Fells' killing, which reads in part, "The murder of transgender people, especially those of color, is truly an epidemic and a crisis that we cannot afford to allow to persist any further." Since 2013, at least 7 trans women have been murdered in Philadelphia.
It's almost numbing, and that concerns me because every time we turn around, it's something that is very graphic and that's very inhumane. And if we're going to say that Black Lives Matter, all Black Lives Matter, and there should be justice for this young lady.
As police search for Fells' killer, advocate Sharon Cooks says the violence against trans women is part of a larger issue that Philadelphia must work to fix. The lack of access to jobs, resources, and secure housing for marginalized people.
Dominique's death could have been prevented if there were adequate support, if there was adequate resources. I personally believe that her death, like many others, could be prevented.
Police have not released any further details about the status of the homicide investigation. In the meantime, a virtual community grief session is in the works. From Spring Garden, I'm Trang Do for CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Meanwhile, homicide detectives are searching for clues after the murder of a black transgender woman. The body of Dominique Remy Fells was found earlier this week. The Philadelphia Office of LGBT Affairs released a statement that reads in part, quote, as thousands take to the streets to proclaim that Black Lives Matter, it is critical we remember that this includes Black trans lives. Dominique Remy Fells' life mattered. Anyone with any information about her murder is asked to contact police.
Police are also investigating a quadruple shooting in Kensington. Eyewitness News at the scene late last night along Emerald and Atlantic. Police say they've learned of the shooting when two men showed up at a hospital with gunshot wounds. While investigating, two more men arrived at different hospitals, all saying they were shot at the same location.
One male was shot in the arm, two of the other males were shot in the leg, and one male was shot in the stomach. However, all four of the victims are in stable condition.
Police have not made any arrests. They're checking surveillance footage to gather more information.
A Philadelphia police officer will be fired after he was arrested today on robbery and assault charges. Police say Officer Luis Miranda and two other men robbed, threatened, and assaulted a group of people who were gambling at a business on Rising Sun Avenue in 2017. Miranda is also facing drug charges. He's been suspended for 30 days with the intent to dismiss. Philadelphia police are searching for the burglars who backed up a pickup truck through the front doors of a ShopRite store. As you can see, the driver of this white truck reversed through the doors and rammed the glass cases to get inside of the store on the 2800 block of Fox Street. This happened on June 2nd, shortly after midnight. Police say the burglars took food, narcotics from the pharmacy and did extensive damage. If you have any information, you're asked to contact the police.
We'll take a good look at this surveillance video. Police are searching for a large group of suspects who broke in and stole from the Global Electronics store on North 5th Street. It happened Sunday, May 31st around 2 a.m. The suspects made off with a variety of electronics worth about $90,000, as well as a gun that was in an office at the store.
The police also are seeking the public's help in identifying a group of people who allegedly stole from a furniture store during widespread looting and unrest. As you can see, they got through broken glass doors at Boss Furniture on West Allegheny Avenue on the 1st of June. For 4 hours, surveillance video shows them making off with some $75,000 in televisions, lamps, and chairs. If you have any information, please contact the police.
We're following breaking news out of Carroll Park of a double shooting where a little girl was hit. It happened on the 1300 block of North Wanamaker Street. The girl is 12 years old and was shot in the leg. A man was also shot. He was hit in the jaw. No word yet on their conditions or what led to that shooting.
Philadelphia police also investigating a double shooting. This happening around 11:30 last night on the 1400 block of Hobart Street in Carroll Park. Police say an 18-year-old was shot twice in the back and is in critical condition. A 29-year-old was shot in the leg and is stable. No word on any arrests or a motive in the shooting.
Fortunately, we're here at the scene of another act of senseless and tragic violence.
And this time, the victim is a 25-year-old woman who was expecting. Developing tonight, police need the public's help to find the person responsible. Good evening, everyone. I'm Yuki Washington.
And I'm Jessica Cartalia. The shooting happened around 2:30 this afternoon at 25th and Burke Streets in North Philadelphia. Kimberly Davis joins us live from police headquarters with an update on the investigation tonight. Kimberly?
Jess, unfortunately, police believe this may have been a domestic situation that has left a woman who was 4 months pregnant dead. Police tell us it's a tragic situation that took the life of a soon-to-be mother.
This is a broad daylight, middle of the day, sad example of some violence that we're experiencing.
Just after 2:30 Thursday afternoon, a young woman was inside of a black small SUV on the 2500 block of West Burke Street in North Philadelphia. Witnesses say a man opened her passenger side door and fired a shot into the SUV. The woman was shot in the head. Police say the shooter then fled across 25th Street east on Burke Street.
He was chased by another individual, and as a result of some video that we recovered, it appears that the second individual may have been firing shots or at least was chasing the original shooter with a gun.
Police tell us the victim was rushed to Temple University Hospital with life-threatening injuries, where she later died. We're told she did not live in the neighborhood and was on the way home from visiting a relative.
We're hopeful that we'll be able to identify the assailant and hold him accountable for this tragic act.
Police have not released the identity of the victim or given us any information if her unborn child survived. Again, if you have any information that could help out in this investigation, police are urging you to give them a call. That's the very latest live outside of police headquarters. I'm Kimberly Davis, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Police say a 27-year-old man is dead after he was shot multiple times in North Philadelphia just before 10:30 Thursday morning. Police say the man was shot in the chest along East Indiana Avenue. He was rushed to the Temple University Hospital where he was pronounced dead. Right now, police say they have not made any arrests. Katie Johnston for CBS Philly.
So breaking news, a shooting in Philadelphia's West Oak Lane neighborhood has left a man dead. Police rushed to the 1800 block of Nolan Street at around 1:30 this morning, where they found a 29-year-old man shot behind a house. He died less than an hour later. So far, no suspects.
And on New Tonight, the police are investigating a triple shooting in Strawberry Mansion. It happened just before 8 o'clock tonight in the 2900 block of West Huntington Street. Officers say 2 men in their 20s were shot. A few blocks away, a woman in her 40s was found in the driver's seat of a car. She had been shot in her side. Police say she was hit by a stray bullet. All 3 victims are in stable condition.
In breaking overnight, a car theft in Northeast Philadelphia ends with 2 children safe and a man in custody this morning. Investigators say a man took the Ford Focus parked outside of a takeout restaurant on the 4800 block of Frankfort Avenue just after 1 o'clock this morning. Police say the mother went in to pick up an order with the engine running, and investigators say her 3-week-old son and 1.5-year-old daughter were sleeping in the back seat.
The 2 children, aged 3 weeks and a year and a half, were in the back seat of the vehicle, both in separate car seats, and the children were actually sleeping. So they may not even have known that the vehicle had been stolen.
Police have taken a 25-year-old man into custody. The Special Victims Unit is now investigating.
Police are investigating another deadly shooting. This one started at a laundromat in West Philadelphia. Eyewitness News on the 1000 block of South 49th Street around 6:30 tonight. Police say a 28-year-old man was doing laundry when 3 gunmen started shooting at him. Investigators say the shooters chased the victim through the laundromat and out onto the street where he collapsed. He later died at the hospital. The victim had 2 young children with him in the laundromat. The children and 10 other people inside were not hurt. No arrests have been made.
Well, we're following the developments in several shootings in Philadelphia overnight. A double shooting in Kinsessing has turned deadly. Police say the husband shot on the 1400 block of South Vodgett Street has died. His wife remains in critical condition. Police believe the male victim was involved in an altercation with another man when the shots rang out. Although police have not made any arrests, they tell us the gunman is known to that family.
Searching for a gunman after a man was shot in Center City. This happened around midnight at 15th and JFK Boulevard. Police say the victim was shot in the arm and has a graze wound to his head. Medics took him to the hospital. Investigators do say, though, that victim is being uncooperative. Police do not believe the shooting actually happened where that victim says it did.
We are following breaking news right now. A shooting in the parking lot of the McDonald's on City Avenue in Philadelphia. We're told a 27-year-old man was shot in the head. He was rushed to Lankenau Medical Center not far away and is in critical condition. Police have not made any arrests at this time.
Well, Philadelphia police are investigating a deadly shooting. This happened just after 11 o'clock last night on the 4700 block of Griscom Street in Frankfort. Officers patrolling the area say they heard gunshots and found a 33-year-old man on the ground with gunshot wounds. That victim was rushed to the hospital where he was later pronounced dead.
This 33-year-old victim was shot 2 times in his chest. Now, based on ballistic evidence, we know at least 2 shots were fired from a semi-automatic weapon.
Police say the victim lived about a block away from the shooting scene. Investigators don't have a motive and say the gunman remains at large.
This morning, police are also searching for an attacker after a man is stabbed in the stomach in South Philadelphia. This violence unfolded overnight on the 1500 block of South Hicks Street. Investigators are working to determine a motive for the attack. Also,
inside a jewelry store, Philadelphia police today released this video showing several burglars breaking into Golden Rose Jewelry Store on the 3600 block of Germantown Avenue. In addition to stealing jewelry, they extensively damaged the inside of the shop. If you recognize any of the burglars, police want to hear from you.
Authorities are searching for a carjacking suspect who targeted a 26-year-old woman. Police say the victim was sitting in the passenger side of a running car yesterday morning near 19th and Brandywine when the suspect got into the driver's side. When the victim exited the vehicle, investigators say the suspect got in and took off. That vehicle has since been recovered. Philadelphia police say the suspect also tried to break into a home on the 1900 block of Brandywine. Philadelphia police also searching for suspects who stole more than $80,000 worth of jewelry. It happened around 2 in the morning on June 1st. Investigators say the suspects broke into Oriental Jewelers, which is on North 5th Street, making off with a variety of items there. If you have any information on the burglary, please contact police.
Another grocery store theft to tell you about. This one at the Whole Foods store on South Street. Police are searching for a woman who broke into the Amazon storage unit inside the store on the evening of May 26. Investigators say she allegedly stole iPads and iPhones and then fled.
Well, new this morning, an argument leads to a stabbing in Kensington. It happened around 2 this morning on the 3500 block in Kensington Avenue. Police say surveillance cameras captured the incident. The victim is in critical condition. Police say the suspect left the scene in a Buick sedan and remains at large.
Also searching for a gunman after a young woman is shot in the city's Logan neighborhood. This happened around midnight on the 4500 block of North 19th Street. Police say the victim was sitting in a car with another woman when someone drove up, opened fire, and then took off. That victim was struck. She's in critical condition. The other woman was not hurt. Investigators are now working to determine a motive.
We begin tonight with a developing story. The body of a missing woman is discovered in East Germantown. Good evening, everyone. I'm Yuki Washington.
And I'm Jessica Cartalia. It's a crime that spans 2 counties. Police say that the body was found in a trash bag in the 5700 block of Musgrave Street. Kimberly Davis spoke with investigators about this disturbing investigation.
Philadelphia police say it is unclear whether the remains found here were that of a male or female body, but they do believe the body could be the remains of a missing Haverford woman. Haverford Township Police alerted Philadelphia police to the remains of a body under a bridge in a vacant lot on the 5700 block of Musgrave Street. Police believe it is the body of a 25-year-old black woman who's been missing since May 22nd. Philadelphia police say the remains were found in a green trash bag. We're told this all started as a Haverford police investigation. Upper Darby police are also involved in the investigation.
There was a 25-year-old female who went missing from Haverford Township in late May. They got some leads, questioned some people, and they got information that led them to the 5700 block of Musgrave here in the 14th Police District in Philadelphia. That's where they found the bag.
Police tell us this woman has been missing for a month now, and the smell of decay was very strong in this area. They believe she was murdered in a location in Upper Darby. Reporting in East Germantown, I'm Kimberly Davis, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Kimberly, thank you.
Right now at noon, police say they have a suspect in custody after a woman's body was found stuffed in a trash bag in Philadelphia's East Germantown neighborhood. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jim Donovan. Welcome to CBS 3 Eyewitness News at noon, now streaming live on CBSN Philly. And breaking news this noon, we are learning the identity of the woman who was found. The bag with her remains was found on the 5700 block of Musgrave Street. Eyewitness News reporter Joe Holden is at the Haverford Township Police Department with the latest information. Good afternoon, Joe.
Jim, good afternoon. The breaking news at this moment is just within the last half hour, Delaware County prosecutors confirming the body found in that trash bag in the 5700 block of Musgrave Street is that of 25-year-old Sabrina DeBose, a Haverford Township woman who was reported missing just more than a month ago. Now, at the time of her disappearance on May 22nd, investigators believed the 25-year-old woman was headed towards 69th Street into the city. My sources tell me DuBose was killed at an apartment complex in Upper Darby, and at some point, her suspected killer then transported her remains to the city of Philadelphia. Prosecutors plan to charge an Upper Darby man this afternoon in her killing. They say DuBose met him shortly before her disappearance. She never made it to the city, according to prosecutors, and they say the cause of death in this case is strangulation. I'm told her family was notified within the last 12 hours. Now, at last check, detectives were putting the finishing touches on arrest papers. I'm told to expect a 1:30 press conference at the Upper Darby Township Police Building to go over more details about this case. Once again, though, confirming with prosecutors that a man has been taken into custody in connection to the killing of Sabrina DuBose, a 25-year-old woman whose body was located in the city of Philadelphia just more than 12 hours ago. That's the latest. Reporting live from Haverford Township Police, this is Joe Holden, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Joe.
Well, the search is on for more people wanted for looting during Justice for George Floyd protests. Police released this cell phone video today. It shows more than a dozen people walking away with items after breaking into the City Blue store on North Broad in May. If you recognize anyone in the video, Philadelphia police want to hear from you.
Now to our other headlines here this noon. Police releasing surveillance video of suspects in a Kensington hit and run that left a man seriously injured. This happened around 2 o'clock this morning at North Front Street and East Seltzer Street. Real-time crime cameras didn't actually capture the crash, but they did record two people getting out of a silver Jeep Cherokee with some front end damage. They look at the man lying in the street and then they drove off, possibly running over the victim's leg. Philadelphia Police Captain Mark Overwise said he believes they panicked, but he says they do have time to make it right.
We have cameras in that area. Sooner or later, we're going to get something that uniquely identifies that vehicle, a tag or something else. And now that we have this picture out with the damage, somebody else might turn them in. So what they should do is turn themselves into us, make it look better for themselves.
Investigators say the Jeep Cherokee is a model from sometime between 2005 and 2010. The victim did not have any identification on him, but we're told he is in surgery at Temple University Hospital.
Arrest is also made following a deadly stabbing in North Philadelphia overnight. Police say a man died after he was stabbed multiple times on the 2500 block of Front Street. While police were at the scene, a man fitting the suspect's description returned to the location. Police arrested that 40-year-old man and took him into custody.
And new at noon, Philadelphia police have named a suspect in the murder of Dominique Remy Fells, a black transgender woman. Police say they're looking for 36-year-old Akantan Jones. Fells was found dismembered, her body last seen last week in the Schuylkill River in southwest Philadelphia. Activists said her murder is part of a disturbing trend. At least 7 transgender women have been murdered in Philadelphia since 2013. Shooting in North Philadelphia to tell you about, leaving a teenager fighting for his life. This happened around 1 o'clock this morning on the 3000 block of Front Street. Police say the 19-year-old was shot in the stomach. No word on a motive, and the gunman remains at large. Another block in Logan, Philadelphia police investigating a double shooting there. 2 boys, both 16 years old, were shot last night on the 4500 block of North 17th Street. One of them is in stable condition after being shot in the arm. A stray bullet hit the other teen in the ankle. Police say shots also hit a house and several parked cars.
2 people are recovering from gunshot wounds after an early morning shooting, this time in Bella Vista. Shots were fired at the intersection of 6th and South Streets around 2:30 this morning. Police say 2 men, 21 and 26-year-old, each shot in the leg. Both are expected to recover. No arrests have been made. 2 men are hospitalized after a shooting in Spring Garden. Police say the victims were shot around 1:30 this afternoon here in the 1800 block of Wallace Street. They're expected to recover. No arrests have been made. Lower Merion police are investigating a shooting outside a radio station in Bala-Cynwyd. Eyewitness News along the 200 block of City Avenue. Police say early this morning 2 people were shot while sitting near the front entrance of Moore 101 FM. An 18-year-old man and a 19-year-old woman are stabilized at the hospital. There have been no arrests.
Family and friends, arm in arm, holding each other close. Purple and blue balloons travel upward, signifying the loss and mourning of a friend, a daughter, and expected mother. who was killed by gunfire. 25 years old, 4 months pregnant, and a suspect still out there. I'm Yuki Washington.
I'm Jessica Gartalia. We have learned that she was not the intended target. Police are reviewing surveillance video in hopes of tracking down her killer. People gathered tonight in the same spot at 25th and Berks, where the young woman was gunned down. Kimberly Davis attended tonight's vigil. She joined live from Kimberly.
Jazz, the family of that soon-to-be mother is still grieving as police continue to search for the shooter. Tonight, 25-year-old Shalia Davis's friends and family remembered her at a candlelight vigil. The wound is still fresh and emotions are still raw for the friends and family of 25-year-old Shalia Davis. The soon-to-be mother was shot and killed Thursday afternoon on the 2500 block of West Burke Street. Police believe her boyfriend was the intended target.
We addressed the family. Well, first of all, condolences. This is a tragedy. You know, a 25-year-old mother, pregnant mother, her and the child is gone.
Philadelphia Cure Violence is an organization made up of people who have left the heartache of street violence in their past and aim to save others from the street's grasp. Colwyn Williams served 18 years in prison.
When are we going to stop being the #1 killer of ourselves? It's not the pandemic. It's at the hands of another black man. That's what my biggest fear is.
Police say the victim's boyfriend fled the Ford Escape Shalia was in and took off running when the shooter approached the SUV and opened fire. This is surveillance video moments after the gunfire erupted.
No mother should have to bury her child, and yet alone her child and her grandchild that didn't even have a life that was realized at the hands of someone that looked like me and you. That's trauma.
As the family prepares to bury their loved one who had so much life left to live, community activists are pushing for change.
We can't continue to slaughter each other and then run and talk about injustices that need to be confronted without the core of the problem being addressed. Our black lives got to matter to each other first and foremost. If not, people are going to continue to piggyback off our sweat and tears and our pain.
Shalia was 4 months pregnant, and sadly, her unborn child did not survive. If you have any information that could help police out in their investigation, police are asking you to give them a call. We're live outside of police headquarters. I'm Kimberly Davis, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Kimberly, thank you.
21-year-old Shamar Murphy is in custody tonight, held on sex assault, theft, and child pornography charges. Investigators say the Vineland man used fake social media accounts to connect with young teenage boys, it's alleged, enticing them to send nude images. Authorities say he then used those images to blackmail the boys into allegedly engaging in sex acts with him. The charges are related to 5 victims, but investigators stress there may be additional victims. North Philadelphia now, a 38-year-old woman is hospitalized after she was shot in the arm. This shooting happened just after 3 in the 2700 block of North Broad Street. She is expected to be okay. There's no word of an arrest in this shooting.
And we are following other breaking news in the Grays Ferry section of the city this afternoon. Philadelphia police say a woman's body was found in a large gray container wrapped in plastic, as you see there. Chopper 3 over the scene on the 3000 block of Wharton Street. So far, no arrests in this case. Of course, we'll continue to follow this story and bring you any.
I am king for now.